Somebody got to do something here. Agbaji at 3 for top.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Cryer from the corner. And it rattles home.
Wow. Gonna KO, baby.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
They're going to throw, and they're going to score. It is Thornton celebrating with his teammates.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
Empty backfield, 4-man rush. And that is intercepted. It's the Marcus Lawrence. Down the sideline, he goes. And look at that. Into the end zone.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
All right, here we go. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Baylor hosts Kansas State tonight at the Farrell Center. And my goodness, what an epic game in Lawrence, Kansas. In fact, epic double overtime. Kansas survives. And that's a compliment because it was a slugfest, as you can expect, or when you play either one of those teams. And we'll hear from two different reporters, writers, analysts who were at the game. Matt Tate joins us at 3:30 from the Lawrence Journal-World, and Carlos Silva from the Lubbock Avalanche Journal had a chance to visit with him about the atmosphere. Bryson Williams has become a hell of a player. Paul, your player of the year, Agbaji?
Yeah, and he's the player of the year because he's not afraid to shoot it when they need to shoot it. And somebody's got to step up and do things. In the last two games, Kansas State and Texas Tech, Saturday night and Monday night, he did that multiple times.
Yeah, he's just,
when it comes down to it, look, he's like most people now, and I thought about this last night. He's not a great free throw shooter, but there's no Mark Prices left in the world. We're kind of in a world of Shaqs, but he's fantastic every other facet of the game. Rebounding, whatever you want. You're getting it from Ochai Agbaji, and Kansas right now also doing this without their number one transfer, Remy Martin, who is healthy but not playing a whole lot because
played a lot better yesterday, though.
But he's a little bit in Bill Self's doghouse because Bill Self wants you to play defense and run the offense how he says, and Remy Martin hasn't quite wrapped both arms around that yet.
Well, it was a great win for Kansas, Craig, and obviously we have a note about Jim Grobe and the College Football Playoff Committee, former Baylor coach. We'll get to that as well, and again, analyst at 3:30 and 3:45. But we had those epic NFL games, and you're like, okay, as sports fans, we just keep being fed this buffet of greatness.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate the last few days, and that was a fantastic contest. I mean, it's what I expected. I didn't know if it'd be a, overtime, double overtime, regulation, what it might be, but I knew that Kansas and Texas Tech were going to throw down in Lawrence, and It was going to be a game where both teams left worse for wear, and only one would leave with their heads held high. But I think Tech can still, have their heads held high. They went to Lawrence and pushed the Jayhawks to the absolute maximum. Kansas has been playing with a little bit of fire, but they keep winning, to their credit. So, huge win for them. Don't have to see Texas Tech, twice more. Maybe they will still, but, at least, one of those contests is out of the way and you got to win. So that's big. And, they're in the driver's seat right now. I think everybody talks about, the Big 12 and who all's in contention and all that. I think you got to say KU's right there at the top. Yep. And then you'd say Baylor Tech in that next group and, then pretty much everybody else. And if you want to rearrange it a little bit, that's fine. But I think that's pretty much what it looks like right now.
And of course, rearrange it is what the Big 12 will do to you. It's like musical chairs. Kansas now, and think about what Kansas, and I know there's an anti-Kansas vibe from some because they dominated the conference for so long. Texas Tech, of course, 3 years ago had the Final Four. Baylor, the last 2 years have been fantastic and won it all last year, back in April of last year. But they won a game in Manhattan, down by 16 or so at one point, and they just kept grinding. They also, remember, had that game at the end against Iowa State where they did get a couple of things that went their way, which some wonder about whether that happens too often. And I'm not going to go there because last night doesn't need to be about anything other than a great game. And I know we've had a couple of comments on the chat room. We'll get to that. They have found a way, instead of being 4-3, they're 6-1. That's what you have to do. And that's how you win a conference title. Baylor is a game back. They haven't played each other. And then Texas Tech, as good as they have been, and they have been fantastic, are now 5-3 in the conference. And the good news for them, they are three of the best games they have to play. Kansas twice and Baylor at least once already, and they get Baylor at home. They're past that part of it. But you turn around, you have Texas coming into town. Oh, my God, a week from today, which will be epic in Lubbock. It's just a sledgehammer, and that's the one term I continue to want to use.
Yeah, and I do think that Tech, Kansas, and Baylor have kind of separated themselves from the other tier of the Big 12. Not that it's still not a really great conference, because it is. It's the best one in the country, top to bottom. But I think there's some separation with those three teams. Can't wait to see Baylor play Tech again and see how they responded Lubbock after what happened here in Waco. And as far as Kansas and home cooking goes, look, that just – that's what's called 85 years of doing basketball at an elite level. So because you get that, and nobody else gets it because they haven't done it like Kansas does. And I will say this, for all the home cooking they might have gotten last night, it still meant that Ochai Agbaji had to hit a three falling away with 7 seconds left for them to go into a second overtime and have a chance to win that game.
No, and I know there's some of that frustration you hear about Duke over the years and whatever, and a lot of times you earn that. A lot of times it's probably true. But I don't, I've been one, I don't like to go down that hamster wheel of looking at, as soon as Baylor starts losing a game, if you're looking at the Twitter timeline about Baylor basketball, immediately it's or any team. Here's what happens. You start losing a game, the announcers hate you, and or the officials are crooked. And so I just think it takes away. Now, there's sometimes I get it. I understand that there is some of that going on. And from Scotty B, eventually Kansas will lose another conference game or two or even three because they've had a lot of close games. Well, again, they're 6-1. They could be 4-3 or 5-2, but they've won those games. Paula, happy Tuesday, y'all. Matt Carver, Baylor is going to need both the Kinjo and Sohan full throttle to beat Kansas. Until then, score 70 tonight, and you will beat Kansas State. I don't know how much it's going to take. Kansas State, of course, is a tough grind because of the Big 12. And I wanted to do an over-under on this. Paul, what is happening, and what does it mean we have a person with a real name that is a bot? How quickly it didn't take 5 minutes for us to get botted.
I'll just tell you, Vladimir Putin is very intelligent, and he hasn't been in charge for as long as he has without coming up with new things, and his Russian bots clearly.
So Putin's watching us.
Okay, here's what I'll say. You remember that show, The Americans?
Yeah,
That's what's happened to the bots.
Okay, all right. Congratulations, and we will have Matt Tate. He was at the game last night along with Carlos Silva in the 3 o'clock hour. Mack Rhoades joins us in about an hour, Baylor Director of Athletics. The College Football Playoff Committee. North Carolina State Athletics Director Boo Corrigan is now the committee chair. Jim Grobe is now among the College Football Playoff Committee members. And I told this to Kevin Gall. He sent me a text about Grobe, and that's what Phil Bennett used to calls him. If I could say I wanted one person that I would trust across the board in any way to do anything and do it right and make it right, it would be Jim Grobe.
Well, he's a rational human being. Before he's a football coach, he's a rational, calm, caring human being. So that makes him good to be on any committee because he's not guided by his emotions. Or he's not, in his feelings all the time.
Yeah, I think he's a good choice. I think, like you said, he's pretty down the line, and I don't think he's going to go in there with really any sort of, preconceived notions or any slant or bias in any way. I do feel like there are chair members that they name that do have that going in, whether it's their conference affiliation or their school or whatever, and that's why you have to make rules to where you can't, vote on your team and all that. But I think as far as just like a clean slate kind of person who doesn't have really any weight pulling them one way or the other, Jim Grobe's that guy. And I think he'll be an excellent addition. It's a nice little retirement gig, to have on the side in addition to all his golfing and whatever else he's doing, attend a few meetings, be a part of the game, and have a determining voice in, who ultimately plays for a national title. I think that's a cool gig for him. Makes sense for a coach like him where he's at this point in life and his career. And, I think he'll do a good job. And, maybe Baylor will actually get a sniff. Maybe they've finally got a voice in the room, or teams like them we know don't have a whole lot of voices typically. Maybe there's one voice that can help out a team that's not typically, just the door's open for them automatically.
We've had Jim Grobe on the show a couple of times since we launched this show in April of 2020. We had him on at the end of the football season. He's fantastic. By the way, Brandon Boyd is ode to joy at Blockbuster yet. Just kidding. It's fantastic. Go see it. I think Houston might be next on the clock. Brian Etheridge
on Thursday.
Tell me, huh?
On Thursday, yeah.
Yeah, on Thursday. Houston's next up. They had Dallas over the weekend. They already had Waco. There's still others. Ode to Joy, the documentary about Baylor basketball from crumbles from rubble to winning the national title.
There's only one Blockbuster in America, and it's in Bend, Oregon. So I don't know if they've got a copy of it yet.
You don't think so? But and at some point, of course, the goal, of course, is to get that on some sort of streaming type of mechanism as well, and we'll see about that at some point. Let's see. Tonight in the Big 12, Kansas State, Baylor. And that game is also, the other game is TCU at home against Texas. They tip off at 8. Baylor and Kansas State tip off at 7 o'clock.
Will Gary Patterson be there? Sitting courtside with Del Conte, just to really rub it into the Frogs fans?
Well, it's at Fort Worth. I don't think so.
Oh, even better. He should really show up then in that case.
There might be a time when they throw a rope around that statue and just like get a trailer and knock it down.
I would have already.
Now, and then there's 2 games tomorrow: Oklahoma at West Virginia, Iowa State at Oklahoma State.
They should just give it the Teddy Roosevelt treatment. What happened to the Teddy Roosevelt statue in New York.
There's been so many statues lately, you got to clarify.
I'm almost scared. I don't know enough about which ones are still up.
So there was this fantastic Teddy Roosevelt statue that that if you look through the prism of ultimate wokeness is not the most woke thing in the world. But for our greatest president in the history of America, who built the Museum of Natural History, there was a gigantic, awesome Teddy Roosevelt statue outside. They have recently moved it to North Dakota because it's not culturally sensitive, apparently.
All right, let's. I don't want to go there because I don't want to go down. I just my feelings.
Yeah. So they can take the Gary Patterson statue and
move it
to
North Dakota. Or send it to Austin. Joshua Moore played at Texas. Pretty good wide receiver. He had committed to play at Texas Tech, flipped, and headed to SMU. One of the Texas players that left, now headed to the 214, as he said on Twitter, and now has flipped from Texas Tech to SMU.
Well, if I was Big 12 teams, I wasn't really worried about him at Tech anyways, and now you don't have to worry about him really at all unless you have SMU on your schedule, and I don't know who does off the top of my head. He's a good player. He's fine. Obviously didn't work out at Texas ultimately. At Tech, when they picked him up, I thought, okay, there's a veteran guy at the very least, and a guy who's made some big catches from time to time, but not anybody that made me go, oh wow, like what a pickup. And I don't really feel that way for SMU either, but that should be a good landing spot for him. Rhett Lashley is going to have a good offense. I mean, I would be shocked if he didn't, and Mordecai will be back there pulling the trigger, so that's a nice target for him. And a good pickup for SMU. Interesting to flip, that's another guy who's flipped his transfer commit already that we've seen, which is kind of becoming the new regular commit. Guys flip that all the time.
So now we have people who committed, went to a school, played at a school, transferring, and now they are decommitted.
Committed and decommitted, yeah. It makes a lot of sense. It really does. I mean, I know these choices are hard, man, but I guess just don't make one until you know for sure. And look, I know there's probably instances where, maybe SMU didn't contact him initially and he had some high and was like, hey, Tech's the move, and I'm going there. And then a week later, he feels differently for whatever reason. I don't know, but good luck to him, I guess. But, yeah, it is kind of silly.
All right, so we're loaded up for that. I mean, if we have something tonight, Kansas and Texas Tech after Buffalo and Kansas City after the Tampa Bay and the Rams, and after the games on Saturday, and we will get back into the NFL a little bit tomorrow. Not as much about that yet today. Craig's got off the radar at 4:45. We'll have from yesterday, if you missed it, Scott Drew joined us live. We'll have that a little bit later on in the show. John McClain, Hall of Fame writer, at 5:35 on the NFL, and Craig and Paul Catalina's top five. Now, let me see here. From Matthews on the chat room, 254-339-1122, the text line available. Love to have your opinions on that as well. If TJ Shannon just drives to the basket at the end of the game, we should get a bucket or at least a free throw and possibly win the game. Or if Williams just hits both of his, well, you're doing a lot. Williams scored 33. I wouldn't put anything on Bryce Williams, even if he had missed a point-blank layup. Last night, unless I looked at the box score incorrectly, McCullough, who was good enough to be kind of a dagger to Baylor when they won in Waco, and Shannon, remember they had that sweet moment, the alley-oop, and the crowd went nuts, and right after that they announced Texas had lost to Kansas State. But those two yesterday, who are really good, and they're kind of trying to get a feel for who they are again, were 2 for 21 from the field. I asked Carlos Silva, because I did record the interview because he's on his way to the airport earlier today, about Shannon's shot selection. He asked Mark Adams about that. He'll get into that with us at 3:45. But 2 for 21 from two of your guys, two of the guys coming back, you're going to have to rely on. Obviously, it was one of those nights for them, and that doesn't help either.
Yeah, Terrence Shannon had a total of 2 points outside of free throws. With free throws, he had 5.
0 for 9 shooting threes, and they kept firing them away. Shannon did hit a couple of free throws, though, that allowed them to tie the game at the end. And so, but yeah, you're right, Craig. It was just a bad night for both
I
of
think
them.
that's why Kansas fans were probably breathing easy when he got fouled at the end, going, okay, well.
Yeah. He's not making anything.
And he drained both of them, 17 of 24 from the free throw line for Texas Tech, 22 of 30 for Kansas. 94-91. It was fantastic. It was 75 apiece at the end of it. That's a lot of points being scored in overtime. Of course, it was double.
I know Big 12 fans don't typically get along all that well, but I think that everybody can kind of come together and hopefully, especially for the real basketball fans out there, you are really appreciating every moment of this current Big 12 and how exciting it is and how many great teams there are and what great players and especially great coaches there are. I mean, it really is a fantastic league. There was a long time where you couldn't tell anybody anything except for the Big East was the best in basketball, and obviously that conference changed over time. But man, the Big 12 right now is super salty, and it's a lot of fun to watch. And this stretch drive, and then eventually tournament play, it's going to be fascinating to see where all these teams land.
And you have the SEC Challenge with a lot of games coming up this weekend. Baylor at Alabama, Texas Tech plays Mississippi State, and there's some others, Tennessee and Texas among some others. You know what the Big 12 in men's basketball, and you can let me know if I'm right or wrong. The Big 12 in men's basketball right now is what the SEC in football is supposed to be. And they are, we know about the elite, but they used to be deep. They used to be midsection up, and they aren't quite as much of that anymore. The Big 12 in men's basketball is what the SEC is thought of when it comes to football.
Who's your freebie? Who's the Vanderbilt?
There's no freebie.
There's not a freebie.
There's not a freebie.
Not a freebie.
There's not a freebie. There's not even a team that's down, maybe not quite as good in the SEC on occasion.
Look, Oklahoma State lost 4 or 5 games in a row, and then came in and beat the number 1 team in the country.
Yeah.
And they've won some other games as well. Now they have nothing to play for, and they're still good.
They're 10-8, but they're not a freebie because they've won 3 conference games in the best conference in America.
Yeah, I mean, I don't totally disagree. I mean, the thing about the SEC is just a string of national championships. But then again, you look at, the Big 12's been a part of the last couple, including the reigning defending champion right now, who's also still a top 5 team. But yeah, I mean, in terms of just top elite teams, they are reminiscent and actually deeper, I think, because, not to make this a full-blown argument or anything, but, I mean, this year is pretty much Bama, Georgia, and then you had 3 or 4 teams that were, pretty good. And this year, I think there's maybe 3 or 4 of the top type of teams. There's not just an Alabama, Georgia. There's a Baylor, Tech, and Kansas. And then, potentially we'll see. But, yeah, that's a good comparison. Need to win a few more titles to really solidify that. But competition-wise, it absolutely is.
The big trophies, that's still Kansas, of course, knocked on the door a lot. Texas Tech had that gut-wrenching loss in the championship game. The SEC does have the number 1 ranked team in the country at Auburn, and they have a few others that are ranked, but they seem to be better in basketball, although they have ranked 12, 18, and 19 because they're starting to beat up on each other a little bit, like the Big 12, but the Big 12 has number 4, and they have number 5, and they have number 13, and they also, of course, have Iowa State is 2-5. This is what Iowa State is 2-5 in the Big 12, and they're ranked in the top 25. That is an incredible compliment for Iowa State in many, many ways. All right, so
better win one soon, though. You're not going to hang on to 2-6 and 2-7, and yeah, but that is
Texas and TCU are just outside the top 25. But yeah, Craig, you're right. Oklahoma's lost 4 in a row, and they're pretty good.
They're starting to fade to the back.
West Virginia, we know, is tough, but they've lost 3 in a row. So. Man, Kansas has won 5 in a row no matter how they've done it. That's a hell of a win for them last night at home because they had a chance to let that one slip away, and they found a way to win in what was double overtime. We as sports fans, I'm telling you, we've been pretty fortunate in recent days. And Chase Watts, be proud if Tech is even top 35 by the end of 2023.
I think that's in response to something else.
What?
I think that's in response. That's a response
to somebody else.
That's what happens when you kind of read.
I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm sorry. Matthew Nichols, I'm sorry. Have you all seen the Texas Tech as the number 6 2023 class? I think he's talking about in basketball. They are. You're right.
What was the follow-up?
And then Chase said, be proud if Texas Tech is even top 35 by the end of 2023.
Yeah, I agree with that, actually. I totally agree with that.
From the 3-2-1 on the text, and by the way, the text was quiet yesterday. That's probably my fault for not going to it or asking you to get to it, or us at 254-339-1122. The 3-2-1 Big 12 Best Basketball Conference, Houston top 12 program. They're coming, and Brigham Young has a beautiful big arena, and they're pretty good. They're in Gonzaga's conference. Cincinnati, of course, has had a pretty good history as well in basketball. From Scotty B, he agrees with us about the Big 12 and men's basketball being compared to the SEC and their reputation in football. All right, when we come back, Matt Tate, the Lawrence Journal, he was there. He was at the game last night, wanted to get his perspective. Carlos Silva Jr., he was there to give us the Texas Tech perspective and a couple of nuggets from his conversation after the game, the post game with Mark Adams. Mack Rhoades at 420. We appreciate you being here. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports back in one moment. Pioneer Steel and Pipe, they're building a brand new facility in Waco. It is bigger, better, faster, stronger, and that says quite a bit because they are so good at what they do and have been so good at what they do in the product and the customer service. They have been in business since 1943. Now think about all the ups and downs. Think about just in the last 20 years or so. Think about COVID. Think about post 9/11. Think about the economy that was in trouble. On and off, right? And here they are since 1943. They're great people. Absolutely phenomenal people. And they've got locations in Waco and Bryan, open Saturdays 8 to noon if that's what you need, if you can't get by there. But if you can't get by there but you need something, if you've been there before, order, and they will deliver it to you and unload it because we're talking about pipe and steel and metal, heavy-duty things for buying and also building. Commercial, real estate. You live out in the country. You want a big entryway. They can help you with that. as well. They're just fantastic. And they're now building that brand new facility to make even what they do, the distribution, even more efficient, and also the product, they can have more of it. Pioneer Still in Pipe, Pioneer Boys, since 1943.
Kick off your new year with the Start Something New sales event. The 2021 Chrysler 300 has total values of $4,000 or 0% for 72 months and $2,000 in bonus cash. And the new 2021 Dodge Charger gets 0% for 72 months. For all first responders, get an extra $500. Shop for power, performance, style, and reliability today from Allen Samuels in Waco with the Start Something New sales event.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
You saw this a minute ago that Keontae George, Baylor commit, is among the McDonald's All-Americans, and she has some former Jayhawk, or not former, future Jayhawks will be a part of that. It's on Matt Tate's timeline as well, who joins us from the Lawrence Journal-World, covers Kansas basketball, among other things as well. David Smoak, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak, Sikkim 365 Radio. Matt, how epic was that last night?
Yeah, that's the right word for it.
Well, epic for every fan watching and absolute hell for every sports writer writing. I I had KU with a 12-point lead with maybe six and some change to play, and so I was well on my way to an easy deadline night. It looked like they had that one not totally wrapped up, but they had led by double digits most of that second half once they got that lead. And then late it started slipping away, and I started writing a loss story. And then overtime was just no idea what was going to happen either way. So I was just trying to survive at that point, just like the two teams out there on the floor. But it was an amazing basketball game. It really was. Ochai Agbaji likened it to the Chiefs-Bills game from the night before in the playoffs, and basically saying that KU was kind of like the Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes in that moment. Just got to get it to overtime, and at that point you got to find a way anyway to win, and he was a big part of that, but the whole team was. And what's crazy is that Texas Tech probably played even better than Kansas did. It was a lot like that Bills Chiefs game. It just was two really good teams slugging it out, nobody wanting to flinch, and at the end, obviously somebody has to have more points when it's all said and done, and Kansas found a way to be that team.
Ochai Agbaji clearly has come into his own this season, and when we talked to you before, he was kind of the guy who fixed some of the flaws he had in his game, and the offseason has taken a huge step. But it seems to me, and a friend of mine who's a KU grad sent this to me today, saying that everybody should be talking about Agbaji, but the KU fans are more concerned about why Remy Martin isn't playing as much yet. Do you think that that's about to turn around and that he might have wrapped his arms around the Bill Self way yet?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I just wrote a blog earlier today about that. I mean, it's Remy all the time around here, and I understand. You know, the guy has terrific potential and could be a difference maker if he's ever sort of unleashed. And it's taken some time, and then he had an injury that kind of slowed things down a little bit in there too, and he's still dealing with that a little bit. So. I think people are freaking out about it, but he's heading in the right direction. But it's going to take some time. I mean, this is a guy that's not even been with Bill Self yet for 6 months, and there are guys who come through Kansas for 4 years and don't figure out how to play Bill Self basketball and do it consistently. And so to ask a guy to do it in less than 6 months is a big ask. Remy's terrifically talented. He's all heart. He plays on emotion and adrenaline, and when he was out there last night, he was good. He was, he's not perfect. He still has to fix some things in his game, but effort, energy, intensity, those aren't issues. So, that's 2 games in a row. He's played 20 plus minutes, and I think everybody's freaking out about the minutes he didn't play, but I think that's a positive trend if you're wanting him out there more. The fact that the head coach has put him out there for that kind of PT in the last 2 games shows you that. Okay, now it's up to him. He's getting the opportunity. Now he has to show that he can be consistent with it and reliable. And that's much easier said than done, but he still has some time. But yeah, they're a totally different team if he can break out.
Matt, with so much talk about Agbaji and also Remy Martin, who would you say is a player on the team that maybe isn't highlighted enough?
Well, 4 or 5 weeks ago, I would have said Christian Braun very easily. I mean, he was neck and neck through maybe 12 games, in my opinion, with Ochai as far as this team's MVP. Ochai's been their leading scorer all season and been that guy. But Christian Braun is one of those guys that'll fill up a stat sheet. I mean, he'll have assists, he'll have rebounds, he'll have the floor burns and the hustle plays and blocks and steals and all of that stuff. And he was phenomenal, and he's continued to play at a pretty high level. But I think the guy who's really emerged and who would be the answer right now is Jalen Wilson. Jalen was huge part of their team last year, a starter in his redshirt freshman season, really kind of emerged as a go-to guy last year in a lot of ways for that team. And this season took him a little time to get going. He had a rough first 10 games or so, and he was suspended for 3 of them because of a DUI in October. And, that kind of got obviously off to the wrong start there with that, and it was in his head, and he couldn't get out of his own head and all of those things. But here in the last 2 or 3 weeks, he's just been a much different player, more confident, more aggressive. He just attacks now. He goes to the glass. I mean, he said this a couple of games ago that after that suspension, he kind of came back thinking, okay, I got to do this for me, and I got to get me going, and I got to find a way to make up for this for me. And he said maybe 2-3 weeks ago, he finally realized no, I'm just going to do this for my team now, and that's all that matters. And that's, again, you talk about the Bill Self way, right? That's number one on the list right there, team first. And so Jalen embraced that and kind of found his way to that point again, and that has coincided with him playing tremendous basketball on both ends. He's not a great defender yet, but he's a great rebounder, and that's part of defense. So he's been sensational, and that trio with Ochai and Christian Brown and Jalen Wilson, it's pretty tough. I mean, I know you guys had a really good one down there last year, and I've seen some other good trios. I don't want to put them on that level just yet, but it's as probably tough as there is right now in college basketball. So it gives Kansas a shot every night, and then after that, it's how do the rest of those guys perform, and again, consistency, toughness, all those things that you have to have from the rest of the lineup.
Matt, it's amazing to say this, but 94-91, of course, the game did go into double overtime, but the wave of defense, what Kansas throws at you, but your thoughts about Texas Tech and the wave of defense, but also the relentless. We saw that in Waco. We've seen that. Kansas saw that in Lubbock. And what Mark Adams has right now.
Yeah, they're phenomenal. They have been, as long as he's been there. And when he was working for Chris Beard, he was a big part of their defense, of course. So, Self said it best last night. People don't do that to Texas Tech. I mean, Agbaji went for 37 last night. And I actually, right before you guys called, I just looked it up because I'm working on a story kind of following up last night. And I looked it up to see who had the highest point total and what it was against Texas Tech this year heading into last night. And I'll be darned if it wasn't Ochai Agbaji himself down there in Lubbock. He had 24 in that game, so he outdoes that by 13 at home. And he was much better here. A lot of those points in Lubbock were kind of garbage catch up, down double digits. Let's just try to chuck it up there. Last night was not that. I mean, he was a man possessed and took over and he just looks really good. But again, against that defense to put up a night like that, I can't remember exactly what he's shot against Tech now. I have it here somewhere though, but he's 20 of 35 this year against that defense, 13 of 21 from 3-point range. I mean, and Adam said after the game too, we were trying to keep the ball out of his hands. We were trying everything we could, and it still didn't work. So that's not a knock on that defense. Those guys are phenomenal, and they make you earn every inch, and have for years. And he's got them playing great. And that I think that to me sort of underscores just how good Agbaji was last night. I mean, he hit the one big shot. If he doesn't make the one big three that ties it at the end of the first overtime, his night's pretty darn good, but it wouldn't have mattered as much, right? And I don't think anybody would be oohing and ahhing over it. And now you look at that, and he's got a chance to be in that Player of the Year conversation nationally. Mm-hmm. If he ends up winning it, you're going to look back at this game and think, boy, that might have been sort of the biggest night of the whole thing. So massive effort. And then, his reward is, let's see, Kentucky on Saturday, and then 2 Iowa State, and then Baylor and Texas after that. So enjoy your off days here, Ochai, because it doesn't get any easier anytime soon.
But is that thing that maybe he did in the offseason more than anything else, just understand that give me the ball and I'll take care of it?
Yeah, he went to the combine. He flirted with the draft and was really close to leaving. And when he got up there to the pre-draft combine in Chicago, I mean, that's what they told him. You have to assert yourself more. And he heard it, I think he told me just once. And he said, that's all I needed to hear one time, because he knew that about himself. He's a very smart kid. He knew that was a weakness of his. There were a lot of games, even though he's been a terrific player at Kansas and really filled an important role on some really good teams. In those moments where they maybe needed him to be a scoring threat or be the guy, there were a lot of times where he would sort of fade to the background, and it just wasn't his time, and he wasn't prepared for that. And so, going to that combine, seeing what that was about, hearing that feedback, and then just working. I mean, Self said last night that Ochai still puts in the most amount of work on this team in every drill. He's the hardest worker. Every time he shoots, he's the hardest shooter. I mean, he preps everything relentlessly. His release point, his elevation, his angles. I mean, you watch him before these games, and he's one of the first ones out there, if not the first one. And it's a really strict routine, a pregame routine that he has, and it doesn't look like much fun. it sort of looks like when you're trying to learn how to play the piano and you're doing scales. You know, it's boring. You want to play music. You don't want to do the scales, but he's out there going through those scales and obviously when the lights come on and it's game time, then he plays a pretty sweet song. And you know, but that's what it is. I mean, he put in the work and he has for his whole career, but he definitely took it to a different level this summer and preseason and I think early on, I mean, he scored 29 in the opener against Michigan State in the Champions Classic, and that was big for his confidence. That showed him, you know, that he could believe in himself and that he could be that guy. And I think from there, he's just continued to become more and more confident and also more and more of, you know, like you just said, give me the ball. And any big moment, any big shot that they've had to have this year, it's going to him. I mean, you basically have to tackle him to keep the ball away from him. And, you know, so far they've gotten it to him and he's delivered darn near every time. So, you know, like I said, one of the nicest, best kids that I've ever covered or been around. And so it's really easy to look out there and watch what he's doing and be so happy for him because he's a terrific young man and he's got a great family and you know, he's waited his time and he was patient and boy, he's making it count now.
Matt, we know the deal Kansas for years and years. I mean, you kind of just go ahead and, hey, they're going to be the Big 12 champs, and recently that's changed a little bit, but they're still in pretty much the same spot, just a little bit more competition. How would you size up this current Big 12 landscape 1 to 10 versus past years covering this conference?
Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, Self says it every year that this is the best the league's ever been, and so you kind of you kind of roll your eyes when you hear it every time because number one, of course, he's going to say that, but I also believe him every time I hear it. You know, I don't think he's just blowing smoke. I think he genuinely means it when he says it, and he's a big fan of the league, of course. And but boy, it sounded different when he said it this year, and I think it is different. I mean, this is, you know, it's not going to happen, but you could make a case for 10 teams to go to the tournament, and it won't happen. They won't do that, and these teams will probably beat each other up too much along the way to get all 10 in, but if they could get 8 in, I think that's a very realistic possibility. And as Self pointed out last night, you know, KU got everything they could possibly want from K-State over the weekend, and he said that first half of that game, when K-State was up 16 at the break, he said that team we played in the first half was a top 20 team. You know, so that's the very bottom end of this thing. And of course, everybody kind of thought Iowa State was going to be at the bottom, and they're ranked and they're talented and they're, you know, this close to being, you know, a 1 or 2 loss team in the conference instead of the losses they do have, but they've all been close and they've been in every game. And so, yeah, I mean, you know, it's sort of a cliche to say the no nights off thing. I think people use that all the time, but it really is true this year. And sometimes you get those nights off, you know, even in a good year for the conference, you get those nights off maybe when a team's coming to your place, right? But I don't think that'll be the case. I mean, you know, KU blew out West Virginia a couple of weeks ago, but it was a 2-point game at halftime and it was a dogfight. You know, they just caught fire in the second half and West Virginia ran out of gas and just couldn't do anything. But even that, you know, it looks like an easy win on paper, but there was nothing easy about it. And so I think that'll continue to be the theme. And I absolutely love the way the schedule's set up. I mean, didn't know Texas Tech was going to be quite so good. Obviously didn't know Iowa State was going to do what they're doing. But when you looked at this thing before the season started, when the schedule came out, and you saw Kansas playing Baylor and Texas twice after February 5th, basically between February 5th and March 5th. That's a heck of a sprint to the finish right there, having to play those 4 games. And obviously it goes both ways for the other 2 teams as well. So I think it's going to come down to it. I think KU's been gritty here to win these games that they've won the last couple of weeks. And you know, a lot of confidence has come from that. I think they believe they can win any game, any situation, anywhere right now. And so that probably is going to help them in those tighter games, but you know, they still have to beat some pretty good teams to come out on top of this thing, and whoever wins it is going to have to do the same thing. So I think it comes down to that last week, and I hope it does. That makes it the most fun to cover.
Matt, thank you very much. Appreciate your time. Great stuff, Lawrence. Journal World, the only team we know in the Big 12 that won't make the NCAA or postseason is Oklahoma State because of that NCAA ruling. and then everybody else trying to scratch 9 teams into maybe 8 or so. And it says a lot. Again, Iowa State is 2-5 in the conference and yet ranked number 23 in the country. And that's greatness. All right, when we come back, Carlos Silva Jr., Lubbock Avalanche Journal. He was in Lawrence. His perspective from what he saw covering the game for Texas Tech, or for his newspaper covering the Texas Tech game with Kansas. Before we take a break, Paul, you were all over this. The Baseball Hall of Fame will announce the new members at some point later on today. And right now, with just over 50% of the ballots in, David Ortiz is headed, no question. He would have to have an absolute, just nobody votes for him. With 50.8% of the ballots in, he has 83.4%. And then just above the cut line at 75%, Roger Clemens, 76.4%, Barry Bonds, 77.4%. Both of them trying to somehow get enough to be inducted or at least elected into baseball's Hall of Fame in their last opportunity to get in.
Let's get them in, because they are Hall of Famers in spite of the steroids thing, and
move on.
And let's get Alex Rodriguez in, and Gary Sheffield, and Manny Ramirez, and Sammy Sosa, and call it a day. And then it's over.
Sosa's last year, that would have to be a Veterans Committee deal. We know that Kurt Schilling's last year, that will be a Veterans Committee eventually with him. A-Rod's getting 38% of the vote. This is his first year actually on the ballot. This is Ortiz's first year, and he's going to get in, which says a lot about him. And I just love the guy and his personality, and he was a hell of a player and a winner as well. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Don Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco. They have cigars, they have coffee beans, and they also have CBD products. If what all of that, you want any of it, they have it. For example, the coffee beans, they carry a lot of different aromas, flavors, tastes, and they can also grind them in front of you if you want. Fresh coffee beans. CBD products. If you struggle at night to fall asleep and you just need a little bit of a nudge, CBD Vita Dreams. Take a gummy, eat part of it, just kind of nibble one. I think they come, I don't know if it's like 50 or so in a bottle. And then the next thing you know, if you fall asleep, you may save yourself 30 minutes or 45 minutes or an hour of sleep. Vita Dreams. Ask Carol, Ashley, or Cheyenne about it. Tell them Smokey sent you. And then the Mother Lode, the 48-foot walk-in humidor with them great cigars. I mean, all of the best ones. Cohiba and Padron, or Arturo Fuente, Romeo and Julieta, Ashton, and also Macanudo, and I could go on. Rocky Patel. And they have a 48-foot walk-in humidor loaded with cigars and all of what you need if you do smoke cigars or even pipes. Don Humidor Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center just off Valley Mills in Waco.
Payments for qualified buyers only at 2.9% with $5,000 down cash or trade. TTL Extra. See dealer for details. It's New Year, New Ride time at Richard Carr. New Year pre-owned deals like a 2017 Dodge Challenger for $272 a month, a 2019 Ford F-150 for $422 a month, or a 2014 Cadillac CTS sedan for $227 a month. Our vehicles go through a 172-point inspection and we pay top dollar for your trade. 100% approval is always our goal. Find your next car or truck at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA systems system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and two-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
This is Sikkim 365 Radio. Text us at 254-339-1122. The Sikkim 365 Radio text line is sponsored by Riverbend Liquor and Wine, with the most extensive variety of craft beer in Waco. A hidden gem on Lakeshore Drive and 19th Street.
Carlos Silva Jr., sports editor, the Lubbock Avalanche Journal in Lawrence, Kansas last night for that epic game, double overtime. KU ends up on top, but my goodness, what a game. Carlos, what was it like to be at Allen Fieldhouse?
I mean, you talk about an atmosphere that is kind of unbelievable. I mean, I know a lot of people use that term a lot, Smokey, but man, that was something else. I mean, you talk about game of the year type atmosphere, that was certainly it. Not only that, but then when you take into account the game that happened the night before with Kansas City and Buffalo, I mean, it mimicked it, and Ochai mentioned that as well, is that they were just trying to play with kind of really that type of we have to do whatever it takes to win, and certainly both teams were able to do that, and it's fun just to watch two teams that are playing at such a high level, and I mean, you look at Bryson Williams and Ochai as well. It was just something to behold.
Yeah, and as sports fans, to see what we saw Saturday, the NFL, and then, of course, as you mentioned, the stuff Sunday was epic, and then last night with double overtime. Did Texas Tech, not that they needed this, everyone knows how good they are. The wins against Kansas, the win at Baylor, they're a battering ram. They bring waves of talent at you every time they substitute. Did they actually gain even more respect from last night, even in a loss?
I want to say, I think just from the national perspective, I think there's a little bit more respect that's gained there. I think everyone that's in the Big 12 knows everyone is good in the Big 12. You look at Kansas State, yes, they did lose to Kansas over the weekend, but when you're up 17 on Kansas, you're a pretty darn good team. And you look at what Kansas State was having to do. Bruce Weber was out, several of their players were out, and now that they're at full strength, you kind of see what type of team they are. Now Texas Tech, despite having all their problems with either health and safety protocols, Terrence Shannon being out of the lineup, Kevin McCullough being out of the lineup. Now they're trying to just figure out the rotation because they're for lack of a better term, about as healthy as they've been so far this season. And now they're just trying to figure out, okay, what rotation works, what 5 guys work, who's our stopper, who's our go-to scorer, and just kind of all those things. And I think that's the one thing you can take away if you're Mark Adams is, you've got a group of fighters, you can work with that. Now you just have to figure out the key combinations that are going to help you down the stretch and obviously making a deep run into the NCAA tournament.
I thought McCullough at Baylor, he hit a couple of huge shots in that game that was the win on the road. We know Shannon came back, and I know the alley-oop that those two had a week ago. They didn't shoot it well last night, 2 for 21, I think, combined. Is that just trying to still get back in a rhythm?
A little bit for Terrence Shannon. I'll be honest, I was kind of shocked he was taking some of those threes early in the shot clock. I think that's something that you have a good game from the three-point line, and maybe you got to get a heat check at some point because and I asked Mark about this after the game, about that shot right before, I want to say after Ochai made that three to force the second overtime, and Shannon goes all the way down, takes a three with about, I want to say 3 or 4 seconds left on the clock. He just, and I asked him, should Shannon have driven the ball, see if he can get a foul later on? And Mark was pretty honest in saying, like, sometimes when you're on the road, you just got to take a shot that you feel like you feel good about, and you don't want to kind of put it into the referee's hand, so to speak. So, I mean, again, I think that would be the biggest thing to take away is I think Terrence Shannon's still trying to find his rhythm in this offense. I think when he is most dangerous, he is an aggressive, physical player that drives to the basket, gets his shooting stroke ready by making free throws, and then from there he's able to get a little bit of extra space at the three-point line, and that's when he's able to get those open shots. But some of those step-back threes, I know he's worked on them, I know he's talked about it, but sometimes you just know, I got to take these threes, or sometimes you got to know, okay, let's give it to the guy that's got 33 points right now, or sometimes you got to just look for someone that is hot. They did that early. A lot of the teammates did for Bryson Williams when they realized how good he was. And unfortunately, it's just like one of those things. Like you said, Smokey, sometimes you just have an off night, and you just got to find other guys and find other ways to win. And Kevin McCullough and Terrence Shannon certainly did, because if you think about it, yes, you may look at the statistic line, but Terrence Shannon hit 2 big free throws, 4 seconds left to force overtime. So
they played Kansas twice. They played at Baylor. They had the game at Kansas State. Is this as tough a stretch as you might get even in the NCAA tournament?
You could make that argument for every team in the Big 12. I mean, you look at some of the projections with Joe Lunardi, and he 7 to 8 teams in the NCAA tournament, just based on the type of schedule that you've had to play, whether that's the net or whatever statistical, website or Torvik or kind of all those things, kind of how those measurements work. They're just unbelievable in the Big 12. So I think any stretch you have in the Big 12 is going to prepare you for the NCAA tournament, but you have to look at what Texas Tech has done, and you have to look at it on a game-by-game basis. What did they do in these games that allowed them to learn and get better? In the Baylor game, as you guys well know, they learned that Davian Warren was a warrior at the line, made a couple free throws, and not only that, but you can close out games. And here's the other thing. I know it's a loss, and I'm sure Tech fans are going to be upset about it, but when you look at the fact that they were down 12 with about 6.5 minutes left, and they tied it to 75 on the road at Fog Allen, where it is difficult to even get out of that type of hole, that is an impressive feat for a Texas Tech team and even any team that goes to Fog Allen, where you're down 12, that could get into bad territory pretty. So just the fact that they showed that mettle in that fight, I think really, really pleased Mark Adams after the game.
Bryson Williams, oh my Lord. Agbaji, you mentioned him in 37 or 9. He was monstrous and hit the huge shots. But Bryson Williams, he loves playing against Kansas because he did even before he was at Tech. How much, not a surprise, but how much better or more productive has he been than even perhaps Mark Adams and company expected?
I think they expected him to be productive, Smokey, but I think the other thing, too, is when you talk about the Kansas thing, he's averaging 26 points a game when he plays Kansas. So he's not too bad when he does play the Jayhawks. But I think the most important thing, and I think it's something people don't realize, is Mark had mentioned they're better when Bryson Williams is making shots. So they tailored the offense to get him the ball more. And I think you're seeing the confidence build. And that was a slow progression. Like I said, if you look game by game during that brutal stretch where they played five games in 10 days, or if you want to look at the 4 games in 8 days or 7 days or whatever you want to look at, they learned some things. And the biggest thing is Bryson Williams steps up when the competition gets big, and the competition doesn't get any better than the Big 12. And all of a sudden, when you give him the ball and you give him that confidence, which is what they've been doing the last couple games, you see him step up. Same thing with Kevin O'Banner. He may not be making the threes like he was last year, but he is stepping up in terms of offensive rebounds, getting those rebounds just on the defensive end, and he's finding other ways to help the team, which is something I think Terrence Shannon and Kevin McCullough are going to start doing later on, whether it's at Mississippi State or down the line. I think that's something they have to figure out is if we're not being productive from an offensive perspective, how do we help on the defensive end? How do we help rebounding? How do we help assist-wise? I think that's going to be the biggest trick for Texas Tech is because you've got 4 really good scorers in McCullough, Shannon, O'Banner, and Williams who can hurt you either from the three-point line, can hurt you from inside. And I think that's something that Academy is going to have to figure out is how do you get those guys all going at once. But the crazy part is right now, Smokey, they still have plenty of time to figure that out.
We've heard the story about the ticket code in Austin, but a week from today in Lubbock, can they contain the excitement building for that in Lubbock with Texas and Texas Tech next Tuesday?
I think the best way to put this is pandemonium because I don't know what's going to happen next week. I mean, obviously there's a little bit of ill will, and I think that's really the understatement of the year towards Chris Beard when he goes from Texas Tech to rival Texas, and certainly the way that Texas has been playing. Obviously, the Texas Tech fans have been paying very close attention to how the Longhorns have been doing. So I think just in that aspect, it's gone from a rivalry to a little bit higher of a level to something else because it's personal. And I think that's going to be the most important thing is how this team plays. And it's going to be interesting to see because I can't remember the last time Texas Tech scored 91 points in a game because that's just the way that Chris Beard wanted to play his motion offense. And certainly Mark Adams, that was the one thing he wanted to emphasize when he took the job was he wanted to be more up-tempo. He wanted to make sure they had to outscore a team. Granted, he doesn't want to most of the time because he's a defensive guy, but if they have to, they have to. And they certainly showed that yesterday. And I think that's something that is going to be interesting to see on how the Longhorns are going to be able to slow down Texas Tech in their offense. But just from a outside perspective, looking at how this is just going to be looked at from the national media, it's going to be Mark Adams versus Chris Beard, yes, because of obviously all the storylines. You can look it up if you'd like, but at the end of the day, you're going to have players playing players. And I think right now Texas Tech is really playing its best basketball. But the other thing, too, is you don't want to peak right now. And I think that's something Mark is looking for is he's making sure, okay, what do we have to work on to make sure that we're not peaking right now, but we're slowly having that slow climb right before the NCAA tournament starts.
Carlos, thank you, man. Appreciate you sharing the atmosphere at Fogg and Allen Fieldhouse. And what a game. And there are games like that basically nightly whenever anyone's playing in the Big 12. Carlos Silva Jr., sports editor, Lubbock Avalanche Journal, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
And as we said right before the interview with Carlos, we will update you on occasion on the Baseball Hall of Fame. Just one ballot has come in since that time. But also Mack Rhoades will join us today at 4:20, Baylor Director of Athletics, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. And Marco's Pizza, 4 locations in Waco. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. Pepperoni Magnifico. We ordered that the other day, and it was good. It was really, really good. Not a surprise. You can go online, marcos.com, and order Pepperoni Magnifico, a large for $9.99, and use the code PEPMAG. Also, unlimited large 2-topping pizzas. This is almost a daily deal. $8.99 each. You can order now and use the code HOT2GO. Plus the large specialty pizzas, $3 off. That's available also online. Use the code SPECIAL3. And unlimited medium 1-topping pizzas, $7.99 each. With the code you can use as well. You can order that actually without a code. That's a special. Order extra and call it in an encore. Download the app. Get 25% off your first menu price order. Pizza is just a tap away. Catering for your crowd, of course, they can do that as well. And it's more than pizza, but also wings and salads and sandwiches and drinks. Marco's Pizza, locations in Belmead, Robinson, China Spring, and Woodway. In Waco, Texas, marcos.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Don Humidor, your home with a 48-foot walk-in humidor with the elite cigar brands from around the world, including the #1 cigar of the year, Aging Room Cuatro Nicaragua. Plus, they have the great brands like Macanudo and Artur Fuente, Rocky Patel, Aston, and so much more. CBD, great for sore muscles, aches and pains, sleep, Vita Dreams, and anxiety, mild depression, general health and wellness. Their staff very knowledgeable on the subject. If anyone is curious about CBD, ask Carol and Ashley. Don Humidor in the Townwest Shopping Center off Valley Mills in Waco.
Parenting is full of surprises.
You never know what to expect.
So after our son was born, I called my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent to set up a life insurance policy in case something happened to me.
Sawyer is now 2.
And we'll soon have a sister. There's no one else I would trust with protecting my family.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. And a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Sports bettors, it is that fantastic time of year. The NFL playoffs, the Super Bowl, college basketball, the NBA, all of that coming up right now, and with great action at BetUS.com, the 3-decade leader. And right now, for just $50, you can get in with our promo codes, SICK'EM125 for 125% bonus on cash, or SICK'EM200, that's a 200% bonus on crypto. So go to BetUS.com today. $50 gets you 125% bonus on cash or 200% on crypto with our promo codes, SICK'EM125 and SICK'EM200. That's at BetUS.com.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio.
Holtmeyer batted and intercepted. And it's Walcott bringing it back. Could he? Wire to wire. Sick'em Bears. How about it?
The 4 o'clock hour is sponsored by Boozer's Jewelers, the wedding ring store, specializing in custom jewelry and repair, all in-house.
Now, here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
That Al Walcott pick 6 against Ole Miss in the Sugar Bowl. In the premium section, if you're a member of Sick'EM365.com as a premium member, there is actually an Al Walcott's Sugar 6 autograph. It's a picture, and it's of him running down the sideline. In the background, Dennis Polian is, I think, looking back the other direction, back behind him to see if there's any flags.
Because he's not happy about it yet.
Yeah,
based on the picture.
And that's what I was looking for. And there was a nearer block in the back at about the 40. It's an 8x12 autographed aluminum photograph of Al Walcott and the pick 6. Shipping time's about 4 to 6 weeks, $135. It's on the site in case I heard this highlight, but It's in the store, our merchandise store as well. Now, we've discussed Texas Tech and Kansas. We could probably talk all day about that. Baylor tonight against Kansas State. That tips off at 7.
Interesting on Kansas State to me is that they've had a really good last couple of weeks, but they had their guts ripped out against Kansas at home in the Octagon of Doom the other night, and now you got to go play Baylor. And so do you try to take that momentum where you beat Texas Tech and you beat Texas and you took Kansas to the wire, but did not winning that game rip your guts out for a little bit, and now you're going in to play Baylor in the Farrell Center, and you might have a letdown here.
You want to talk about your guts being ripped out? Ask the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah. So they don't have to play for another 7-8 months. So they get a little more time than 4 days.
The franchise has been to 4 Super Bowls, and the first one was the gut-wrenching Scott Norwood. And then they got blistered by Washington, and then Dallas beat them up twice.
We talked about this in the top 5 yesterday. That their my number one thing about the divisional round was the Bills are snake bit. And if you think about their history as a franchise, they had O.J. Simpson, who before he was a murderer was the best football player who was walking the earth.
He was my favorite player.
They didn't win with O.J., right? They didn't win anything with O.J. Okay, then they had the best team in the AFC 4 years in a row, and it was constructed
with Hall of Famers,
all over that team, and they lost a heartbreaker because of Scott Norwood missing a kick. Then they played the last good
in a Giants game that had the perfect game plan to beat that team.
Yeah.
And it's happened before in the Super Bowl when you've had, but that was, you had Kelly, Reed, Bruce Smith, Thurman Thomas.
Yeah.
Right?
So then the next year they played the last good Washington Redskins team, which was 1991.
You didn't have to use the year.
I'm just saying that was the last time.
Okay.
Look, the last great Cowboys team was 95.
Washington had Mark Rippon, hell of a team. They were offensively a juggernaut.
And then you played the dynasty of the 90s in the Cowboys.
Maybe even along with the Steelers and Packers, it's one of the best ever, 49ers. Oh, man, they have been. And then, of course, they had the miracle against Tennessee. Was it? No, Frank Wright.
Well,
against,
they lost that game,
Yeah, that's right.
Against Tennessee. They won the game against Houston.
That's
Frank Wright.
Against Houston. That's right. All right, so that's going on. I have no idea what Kansas State will be tonight. I just know that what they try to do, and when I watch Kansas State play basketball, and I should have asked this to Scott yesterday, is they make you look like you're playing poorly. It's like they make you look like the game is just like a gear's missing because of how they play. And, of course, in the Big 12, defense is huge. And despite their wins, as you mentioned, Paul, the Kansas State win against Tech and then Texas, they're 2-5. They have no room for error, or not much room for error. Now, the Baseball Hall of Fame, Paul, any new ballots come in?
Yes, one.
Okay.
They're at 51% of ballots, so 51% of precincts reporting. So we can't call anything. I'll work on
Did Bonds or Clemens go up or down? Did they
went up.
They both went up. Okay.
They both went up a little bit. Bonds and Clemens went up. Big Papi stayed at 83.5%. Okay. And so if I was doing my Dan Rather right now, we're ready to call the Baseball Hall of Fame.
And we'll do baseball just here for a second.
Ortiz.
But I'm going to name some names, and you guys tell me, and you could stop me, but there's some pretty good ones, like Ryan Howard's first year, Lincecum's first year, who had Joe Nathan, the closer. Here are names that are not going to get in. And you tell me at some point if they will over the 10 years. Bobby Abreu.
No.
Mark Burley.
No.
Todd Helton.
Yes.
Ryan Howard.
No.
Tim Hudson.
No.
Torrey Hunter.
Nope.
Andrew Jones.
Should. Yes.
You gave a stat yesterday, and I don't know, Craig, if you heard this or not, about greatest defensive center field or outfielders. And in my time, again, as old as I am, I was fortunate, although not in the prime of Willie Mays or Roberto Clemente, but they've always been, to me, numbers 1 and 2. What was the stat you gave about Andrew Jones?
Andrew Jones saved 37 more runs in his career than Roberto Clemente, who is second. And Willie Mays is third. So,
and he had a gun.
And he was a very, he wasn't a great offensive player like those two were, but he was a really good offensive player. He was a great outfielder.
Hall of Famer?
I think so.
Jeff Kent.
Craig, what do you think about Jeff Kent?
No.
I
don't think of Jeff Kent as a Hall of Famer, no.
He had a run, didn't he? And he wasn't.
Yeah. I mean, there's the Hall of Good and there's the Hall of fame.
That's why it's so hard.
Yeah.
And there's been years where there haven't been any because of politics and steroids or not good enough. Yeah. All right, Tim, I mentioned that. Tim Lincecum?
Yeah, no, he not enough.
Did he win 2 Cy Youngs?
He might have, but he still didn't. I mean, 2 Cy Youngs, but he didn't play enough.
Joe Nathan?
No.
Jonathan Papelbon?
No. Even though he helped win the Red Sox World Series, no.
For that reason alone?
Yeah, I know, but no.
All right, Andy Pettitte.
See, Andy Pettitte's a weird one because he's not getting a lot of ballots, but his postseason record is near impeccable.
It's incredible.
And he has a lot of wins. He's not at 300 wins, but his postseason record's great. I think Andy Pettitte merits consideration. He's a guy who's going to go in the Veterans Committee because baseball writers will never vote for him because his measurables are just out. Here's the other thing Andy Pettitte did. He's the only guy who's ever in the world been honest about steroids, and it somehow hurt him.
Yeah.
I mean, he's the only guy who, when asked about it, said, yeah, you know what? Roger Clemens sent me some steroids, and I thought everybody else is doing it, so yeah. I regret doing it. I'm sorry. But, and then everyone's like, what a dick. And you're like, what do you mean? So it's ridiculous.
Andy Pettitte has 19 career postseason victories.
Yeah, and he's 19 career postseason victories. He's a fantastic pitcher.
We've had Tom Glavine on a couple of times, Hall of Famer, 14. Verlander, 14, still playing. Kershaw, 13. Clemens, 12.
Well, Kershaw's a Hall of Famer, and Verlander's a Hall of Famer.
I agree.
And so
Smoltz,
15.
Maddox and Schilling, 11. And then it used to be, well, of course, Bill Foster's forever ago, but Whitey Ford.
Yeah, he was the gold standard for postseason wins, and he's got 9 more wins than Whitey Ford.
9, yeah. No, that's okay. So let's keep going down the list. Manny Ramirez.
Yes. Was the best right-handed hitter of his era.
You think he'll get in?
I don't know. I mean, because he's
60 on the ballot.
Yeah. I mean,
do you feel like if Bonds and Clemens somehow slide in and they are right above that 75%, and I don't want to get my hopes up for them or anybody at that point because I've seen it. Like you just lose 5 ballots. You don't lose ballots, but you don't get 5 or so. He was a run-producing. He was a monster production hitter. Yeah. He's crazy. Not a great defensive player, but he was a run-producing mother. Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah, absolutely should be in.
Scott Rowland. He is at 70.5%.
Yeah, and Scott Rowland will get in.
What am I missing about him?
I don't know. I mean, he's the best defensive third baseman of his era. Was really good over there. Was a really good offensive player. Yeah, Scott Rowland will be a Hall of Famer.
I never thought he was that. I mean, I guess maybe I'm not trying to be flippant with that, but I did not know he was that good. But I guess longevity-wise. Jimmy Rollins.
No.
Okay. Curt Schilling's last year, he's at 61.5%. He will not get in by ballot.
No, he'll get into if he gets in, he'll be the Veterans Committee, which is what he wants, and he should be. And look, I get that Curt Schilling may rub you the wrong way, and sometimes he says crazy things that don't make any sense, but you're not voting somebody in because of their stance on a vaccine or who they voted for. But that's what they're doing to Curt Schilling.
Okay,
Curt
which
Schilling
is worse, what he said about politics or what other guys did to put in their body?
I think it's tomato. I think there's one worse than the other.
Ty Cobb pistol whipped a man to death. Yeah. He's in. Curt Schilling's just kind of a jerk.
Want to retroactively go back to when there was segregation? Do you think there was any ball players throwing around the N-word being racist? We want to go back and now, let's take Ty Cobb, right? I mean, the perfect example of just a piece of garbage, Ty Cobb. But hey, let's just whatever. It's fine. I think it's so silly what they get down in the mud over.
I cannot agree more. Gary Sheffield.
Yes.
Yeah. He's at 48.5%.
Yeah,
it's amazing. Schilling's at 61.5%. He's been close before, even with all that back.
Talk about an unlikable guy. Yeah. Gary Sheffield was another guy.
Yeah. I mean, that's what I think. Look, I get
it. He and Strawberry from the same high school or same part of Tampa?
Yeah, they're all, Sheffield and Dwight Gooden.
Yeah,
they're cousins.
Right.
But Sheffield.
Strawberry's from L.A.
Sheffield's a fantastic player and was one of the best players in the league throughout his entire career with whoever he was with. I think because he was a little bit, you look at the guys like Sheffield, a little bit caustic. Roger Clemens, who's now in it, caustic, Barry Bonds caustic. So I wonder if it was what they did or how they responded to it. It's not necessarily that. It's how they, if you hurt the baseball writer's feelings, well, that's all well and good that you don't like the guy, but you're not being asked to vote on the hall, the Hall of Fun Dudes.
Art Monk, who was at the time he retired, was the all-time leading receiver in pro football. Didn't get in for quite some time, and wide receivers have always been kind of like sluggish on getting in. He didn't talk to the media. No question. Some of them didn't vote for him because of that. Gary Sheffield, I would take 20 of him on my team. Would you win?
Yeah.
He's a fantastic player.
Played a bunch of positions.
Billion homers and scored a ton of runs. Yeah.
I don't know if you played deep. I don't know. He's okay. All right, now, Paul, we got Craig Sammy Sosa.
Yes.
Last year.
Yeah.
Veterans?
Yeah.
It's got to be, right?
I actually have a harder time with Sosa because his only great period was when he was on steroids, and it was pretty clear. Like, Bonds was at least good before that. McGuire was good before that. Sammy Sosa, we only know about him because of steroids in the home run chase, and that's where I have a bit of a pickle with him.
Is McGuire already done with his 10th year?
Yeah,
okay,
he's got
Mark Teixeira.
No.
Frick no.
He helped the Rangers get to World Series. He should be in the Hall of Fame for that reason only. All right, Omar Vizquel.
No. I mean, he's a great defensive player, but he was a light hitter.
All right, and Billy Wagner.
Yeah, that one's interesting to me.
7th year, 51.5%.
It's tough for closers, but I always thought Billy Wagner was pretty nailed. So.
All right, when we come back, we'll hear from Mack Rhoades, Baylor's Director of Athletics. They host Kansas State, the men's basketball team. Women had a huge win on Sunday, and much more. And his thoughts, we get into a lot of things with college football. He was at the NCAA convention last week as well. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac. They have a bunch of new vehicles on the lot or arriving daily over at Richard Carr. They have both pre-owned and new models for you to check out over at the dealership, as well as they have got a bunch of people running around trying to make sure that you can get the best possible service imaginable over at Richard Carr with the supply chain shortages, microchips, whatever's causing problems and causing delays and getting cars onto lots. Richard Carr is doing everything they can, and their hard work's paying off because cars and trucks are coming. So if you've been waiting to buy a new Buick, GMC, or Cadillac, now's the time to contact Richard Carr Motors as they're receiving deliveries each week. Get on their inbound vehicle list, and you can get your new car or truck as soon as they arrive, plus buy a car now and get 0% financing for 72 months for qualified buyers. If you're in the mood for a truck, that's what you're eyeing. Well, how about the GMC Sierra? Available 277 horsepower engine, best-in-class cargo bed volume and head and leg room, plus a luxury interior and ride that compares to a luxury sedan. Richard Carr has Sierras in stock with more on the way, and most trucks are at 0% for 72 months for qualified buyers. If you're eyeing SUVs, well, they have 11 different SUV models from Cadillac to choose from with dozens of trim options from Buick and GMC as well. Richard Carr is the one-stop shop to find that perfect SUV for your needs, whether it's a fun and nimble Buick Encore or the sophistication and luxury of a Cadillac Escalade. Richard Carr is the SUV you need, starting at $24,000. So call now, come by now, or go online to find the perfect SUV for your family. And if you're not buying new, but you are buying, well, they are also loaded with premium pre-owned cars and trucks. All of them go through a 172-point inspection before hitting the lot, and they have over 10 lenders who will do what it takes to get you in a car today. 100% credit approval is always the goal. So trust the good local people you can count on for over 20 years in Central Texas. Proud Wacoans and proud Baylor Bears. Log on to richardcarr.com today, or call now, or go see them now off Highway 6 at the Imperial Exit.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com. Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
Brad Boozer Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show. Necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Our weekly segment with Baylor Director of Athletics Mack Rhoades is brought to you by Edward Jones Investments Brokers, Tom Albers, Brad Wilson, Ben Erlinson, and Cam Heathcott. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
All right, here we go. This 4 o'clock hour, 4:25. Craig's off the radar in the next segment. Baylor, Kansas State tonight. Epic game last night in Lawrence. We've covered that. Jim Grobe, a part of the College Football Playoff Committee. Mack Rhoades, Director of Athletics at Baylor, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. And a lot to get to, but how about that, Mack, with Jim Grobe being a part of the College Football Playoff Committee? That was announced today.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you mentioned it, and we're starting the segment with that because I was going to mention it. I texted Coach and just happy for him, and I think in my text message to him is they couldn't have selected anyone better, and one of the blessings that I've had coming to Baylor is the opportunity to work with Coach and to spend those 5-6 months with him and for us to have developed a friendship, and he is one that we continue to stay in touch regularly, and just think the world of him, and what a great selection. Like I said, I can't imagine anyone being better for that committee. So great job by the CFP.
Mac, just on my perspective on Coach Grobe, he's a person that doesn't have agendas. So to me, that would be exactly the kind of person you want on a committee.
Yeah, Paul, I think you hit the nail right on the head. He doesn't have agendas. He's always going to be thoughtful and straight with you. He's not going to tell you things that you want to hear. He's going to tell you things that you need to hear. Obviously, he's got great wisdom. He has standed the test of time, and I mean that in a very, very positive way. He's just a very smart and thoughtful, wise person, and a class act as all of the Baylor family knows and understands.
Mac, you were at the NCAA convention. We had President Livingstone on Friday afternoon to kind of give us her take as well. And obviously there was the vote about the legislation and what is moving towards separate Division I, II, and III when it comes to whatever they can do. Is it one thing that they're actually doing this? Do you think they'll ever get it done? Because it seems like a lot of times these things get tied up and nothing ever goes to the next level of actually getting done. Yeah.
I think it's a fair question, Smoak, and I think we're about to find out, right? I think over the next 12 months, where does the transformation committee land? I certainly have great respect for Commissioner Sankey and Julie, who are co-chairing that. So I'm looking forward to it, and how do we, how do we land this plane? What is it going to look like? There's so many things right now that are in the space that we're having to deal with when you think about, obviously name, image, and likeness, and transfer portal, and Alston, and so how all of that plays out in this is intriguing and certainly interesting for me. We're going through an exercise right now with our executive team. If we were in charge, how would we land this plane? And so it's brought on a lot of really, really good conversation. I think, the biggest issue is or I shouldn't say the biggest issue, but one of the most significant issues is how are we going to treat football? How are we going to treat football? Right now, as we all know, the NCAA runs the FCS championships. They do not the FBS. I don't think there's ever going to be a time where they will. But how does the NCAA, how does Division I, navigate FBS, and what does that look like? And are there tiers within it? Does it all remain 129 the same? Enforcement, admissions, all of those things, student athlete benefits. So that's going to be interesting to see how all of that plays out. And I think the great thing is where Baylor is going to have a voice in that.
Mac, one of the things that Dr. Livingstone said to us last week was that when it comes to punishing rule breakers and dealing with certain things, there's very clear language in the new Constitution that says, look, there are certain things that the NCAA does not have jurisdiction over. So now there's no wondering why those things are not dealt with from the NCAA. And the other thing was a little more unclear is when the rules are there going to be mechanisms in place to punish people who break those new rules? Because right now, part of the problem is the NCAA can't seem to really punish anybody for anything they've done wrong.
Yeah, I think that I think you're right. I think novel concept, and there is just a hint of sarcasm in there, but novel concept that we punish the people that actually break the rules, and we haven't done that. We I'm not going to say 100% across the board we haven't, but we tend to do a really good job of punishing those that had nothing to do with it, and so whatever rules are out there and that the NCAA is going to enforce, we need to get to a better place in terms of who we're holding accountable and who we're not holding accountable.
Mac, what would you say was the biggest topic that wasn't necessarily officially on the – I mean, it seems like most of it surrounded, legislation, things like that, but what would you say is kind of the biggest topic in small talking around with others?
Yeah, it's not even close. If there's 10 conversations, I guarantee you 9 of them is about the intersection of the transfer portal and name, image, and likeness, and where this is headed very, very quick. And are there any ways, solutions, ideas to curb it other than potential federal legislation? Because I don't think any of us believe that that's going to happen anytime soon, probably after the midterm. And so you're 14 months or more away from that. And so, how do we wrap our hands around that? And so that's, Craig, that consumed the conversation.
Mac, it seems to me, at least from what I remember, the NIL was supposed to be about once you got on campus of what you could represent, endorse, whatever, to make some money, name, image, likeness. But it also seems to be that it's almost pretty obvious that some are using it even as an inducement. Was that discussed? I mean, I know you kind of mentioned that, but there's some pretty obvious situations or scenarios here.
Yeah, and I, look, let me be clear, not across the board for all sport programs, but I think you can certainly primarily focus on football and some with men's basketball. But let's be real. It's name, image, and likeness has now become a recruiting enticement, and that wasn't the initial reason for it, as you talked about, smokers, or you said more eloquently than I have, but that's where we're at, and I don't know how we necessarily put that genie back in the bottle. I don't know that you can, but that's all of the conversation that's going on ad nauseum. I mean, that's all everybody's talking about.
Mack Rhoades, Baylor Director of Athletics, with us. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
How do you reverse course? I mean, can you?
Yeah, I don't. It's a great question. How do you reverse course? How do you do that without antitrust lawsuits and things of that nature? I'm certainly not an attorney, but like I'm not ready to throw our hands up and just say there's nothing we can do. I do think there's some things that we can curb. I think we all need to sit down and say, hey, what can we tolerate? Where do we draw that line? And I think it starts there. And if none of us have a stomach for, this, past wherever we draw that line, then we need to come up with some ways to say, hey, we need to stop. We need to stop going there. Now, the NCAA has done that a little bit. As we know, there's some name, image, and likeness programs out there that they're looking into and they're exploring. But I think we need to probably be more aggressive in that area.
Mack, when we talked to you last week, both basketball programs were in the midst of a little bit of losing. But since we talked to you, the men went and beat West Virginia in Morgantown and beat Oklahoma in Norman. And, of course, the women, they're riding a 3-game winning streak. The wins over Oklahoma State and then the big one over number 7 Iowa State on Sunday. Your thoughts on just a little bit of a bounce-back week? And obviously it's a roller coaster. It goes up and down, but pretty good week in hoops for you guys.
Yeah, it has been. I appreciate you mentioning that, Craig. And, basketball is a long season, and there's some ebbs and flows. And, I think with one of the programs, men's basketball, right, we've experienced some injury, and young men fighting through that, and just proud of the way, they bounce back. And as you mentioned, Morgantown is not an easy place to go into and win a game when you're down a couple starters, and then being able to go into Oklahoma again. There's no gimmies in this league. It's crazy. There's not one that you can sit and go, okay, that's a W. We can circle that. That's a foregone conclusion. So, proud of them, and we've got a fight on our hands tonight when you think about Kansas State and the 2 consecutive wins that they had, and then almost beating Kansas. Kansas obviously had a great comeback. I think they were down 16, but it's a tough league, and so we've got to be sharp tonight, and then, hey, guess what? Then we get to go and play a really, really athletic and talented team, Alabama at their place on Saturday as part of the Big 12 SEC Challenge. And then, women's basketball, I think, that's a program with obviously coaching transition, and we knew it was going to take some time, but you're starting to see some confidence. Our young ladies playing at a higher level, and for coach for her to get her first win on versus a top 10 ranked team. I thought that was a huge win over Iowa State, and again, I think that just kind of galvanizes that team and builds some confidence and helps them and trajects them to continue to get better. And again, not easy, because we head to Lubbock, to play Texas Tech tomorrow, and then have to go to Morgantown on Saturday. And I will say this about Big 12 women's basketball. I've been here now 5 years. It's by far the most competitive, not even close, that I've seen it just across the board since I've been here. So, kudos to the Big 12 and women's basketball, because it's getting better across the board.
Mack, how much do you think, and I was in the post game with Queen Egbo, who had a huge game, and obviously with Jordan Lewis, who did as well. And both of them started talking about coaching and what not just Nikki, but the staff and what they've been through, and hearing some of the chirping, and even Nikki. But I thought, and TL, who was with ESPN Plus, who's doing the series on ESPN Plus, said that she even maybe saw, not to be too dramatic here, that maybe Nikki had a little bit of a glimmer of a tear when one or both players started talking about how much they're all in with this staff and what that win meant.
Yeah, I thought for a lot of different reasons, it was a big win, and I know it meant a lot to Nikki, and maybe it was just confirmation that the team has bought in, I think it was probably good for her to hear her players publicly say, look, what our coaches do, what head coach Nikki does is tremendous, and there's no doubt that Nikki can X and O it with the best of them, and there's no doubt in my mind. But that's just one piece of it. The probably the larger piece is just the togetherness, the building of culture, and bringing people together, one common cause, and that doesn't happen overnight, and that's not meant to make excuses, but that's the reality and the truth of it. And so I think probably the win against Iowa State was just a sign of another step in the right direction. And here's what I do know. I do know that those young women that put on the Baylor uniform will run through a brick wall for her, because they believe in her as a coach and as a person.
Mac, one more thing. You and we on this show with Paul and Craig, as well as we've discussed as the season was progressing, about Dave Aranda and his future. And then you guys had the success he did, the football team did. And I know you have been working on some of the details. How close do you think that now might be? Because it's always been something, and for a good reason, because you had this Big 12 championship game. That's great. Then the Sugar Bowl. That's great. National Signing Day in between. How close do you feel like you are with that at least being announced?
Without giving away a secret, I would say close. I would say stay tuned. The Baylor family could hear something publicly here very, very soon.
What's the definition, in your opinion, of soon?
That I will not define.
It's before later, but not after
right
now.
Never.
Yeah,
it's between now and when he announces it.
Yeah.
You could hear the pride in your voice on this.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Thank you, Matt.
No, we're in a great place, and there'll be good news soon. So
thank you very much, Mac. Appreciate it. I know he's so annoyed when I keep asking him that question. The definition of soon in the dictionary.
Yeah, but I get it, though, because, he did say like 3-4 weeks ago, hey, we're expecting something right after the bowl game. And then, the bowl game was 24 days ago. And he said it before then. So 24 days have passed since the bowl game. That's not, a short amount of time. So I understand why people – I'll tell you why, especially with all these NFL jobs opening up. I'll get to the number of head coaching vacancies, but, I don't know what Aranda's dreams are. And, I wouldn't be surprised at all if he's a college lifer, but I just think, when you're as popular as he is right now and as well respected as he is right now, anytime you see any notable jobs pop up, much less 9 NFL jobs, and then, you just got done with all the coaching jobs opening up and closing. Now, those might open back up again because some might go to the NFL.
Sure.
So, if Matt Campbell left Iowa State, that means nothing. Dave Aranda's not going to Ames. But, if Jim Harbaugh leaves Michigan, then that could create a whole domino effect. And, I wouldn't be surprised if Michigan wanted to talk to Dave Aranda quite. You know what I'm saying? So
who wouldn't? Right?
Yeah, exactly. So, I think it's initially when people don't hear it for like 2 days, it's kind of dumb to be like, well, where's the announcement? Because people just can't be patient for anything. But when it's been 24 days, then that's a whole different thing.
And then one of the things that also, and I'll tell you this, and this is just me kind of doing a little bit of that background on this, is that Dave Aranda is restructuring the personnel department along with the football program itself. And it's something that it's very important to him, as it would be with any head coach. And so that's one of the things I love about him, and I really do. It's not about him. With him, it's absolutely not about him. That doesn't mean there won't be a new deal. And again, as Mack Rhoades just said, very close soon, like very soon. It's not like that is on his front doorstep as far as how important it is, but it's going to happen. And I said back before they played Tech it was going to happen, and you're right, several weeks have gone by, but little things not so much have gotten in the way, but little things have been good because they've also been in the way between now and then. You agree?
Yeah, I don't think that he wakes up every day and his first thing's like, well, I got to get Dave Aranda's contract done, and then he goes home and he's like, well, tomorrow I got to make sure. I mean, there's other things going on.
And Mack has said from the beginning, since we did bring it up back at the end of the week of, I guess, before Texas Tech, that it was a matter of time. And I know that it can be a message board thing. Hey, when's it going to happen? Because some time has lapsed.
Look how long it took to get Gary Patterson official at Texas.
Yeah.
I mean, how many weeks was that going on? We knew it the entire time, but I mean, it still wasn't official until it was official. And I haven't worried about Aranda one iota. I mean, the more this dragged on, it hasn't changed my opinion at all. But I understand why people, started to get a little bit nervous about it potentially.
And you shouldn't be, and I hope that's what you haven't been, but at the same time, it's good to hear Mack say the word soon, maybe even imminent, as far as Dave Aranda, the new deal. And there might be much more involved in that, not just his deal, but also that among others on his staff as well. It's 4:48, Craig, and Off the Radar, next, Sikkim 365 Radio.
BetUS.com, the 3-decade leader. You've got the NFC and AFC championship this weekend in the NFL. Tons of bets on those, even prop bets. Tons of stuff you can do on that. They'll have prop bets up for the Super Bowl. They'll have great action on the Super Bowl. And if you want to start an account right now at BetUS.com, $50, just $50, using our promo code SICK'EM125 for cash, or SICK'EM200 for crypto, 125% bonus on cash, 200% on crypto, gets you started right now at BetUS.com for just $50. So go to BetUS.com today, make a deposit of $50, use our promo code SICK'EM125 or SICK'EM200 for those bonuses, some of the best you can get, and they've got action on almost every sport around the world. So once football's done and you want to bet on something else, they've got your game. If you want to bet on cricket, they probably have cricket at BetUS.com. Use our promo code SICK'EM125 and SICK'EM200.
This month, it's all about the championship drive as our hometown team celebrated the Big 12 championship in a Sugar Bowl win. So can you in your new vehicle from Allen Samuels Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram in Waco. During the Start Something New sales event, shop for power, performance, and reliability with Allen Samuels. Maybe you're planning your next adventure. Choose from a range of Jeep models, including the 2022 Jeep Grand Cherokee. Take home the trophy from Allen Samuels in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
Did you know that 1 out of every 4 men have symptomatic low levels of testosterone and don't even know it? And if you think you're too young to worry about it, guess again. Low T levels can make you feel tired and grumpy, cause weight gain, and wreak havoc on your sexual desire and performance. Petty Clinic Low T can set up same-day blood screening and results, so if you're tired of being tired, I challenge you to man up and Google search Low T Waco or go online pettycliniclowt.com. It's a private clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Affordable, only $150 a month, includes lab work, office consultation, testosterone injections, follow-up visits compared to $395 a month in Dallas or Austin, and you don't have to fight the traffic. Petty Clinic Low T is board-certified physician consultations, will provide the best form of brand-strength testosterone available. Contact Petty Clinic Low T today, just off Highway 84 and Old Hewitt Drive in Woodway. Petty Clinic Low T, helping men become the high-performance men they deserve to be. PettyClinicLowT.com or Google search Low T Waco.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed. Everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar here on Sikkim 365 Radio. Time to take a look at a few stories outside of what we've been discussing here over the course of the last almost 2 hours. And some of the, I think I'm just going to stay away from the Baseball Hall of Fame because those are very fluid, and we've kind of already been discussing that. And like in the last hour, one ballots come in, so we'll just update that by the end of the show. And so I'll stay away from that.
Okay.
But the big news today that we have not touched on at all is Sean Payton is out as New Orleans Saints head coach. His decision, been with the Saints for 15 years, won a Super Bowl, and, of course, missed a year as well with that 1-year suspension that he had to endure because of the bounty investigation. But he did inform his team today he is leaving, and he leaves with him, or takes with him a 152-89 overall regular season record, 9 playoff appearances in 15 seasons, and the 2009 NFL championship, a 2009 Super Bowl. He said he doesn't like the word retirement, and he still has a vision for doing things in football. And he said, I'll be honest with you, that might be coaching again at some point. I don't think it's this year. I think maybe in the future. That's not where my heart is right now. He also mentioned that TV is of interest to him. That's something he could dabble with in his time away. It sure sounds like he's going to be a coach again. And, of course, this is Cowboys related because all this has done is just drum up every Cowboy fan to banging the war drums for Sean Payton as head coach in Dallas, because that's been like the dream scenario for going on a decade now.
It's almost like a little bit.
It's almost a little strange, but I've seen plenty of Cowboys fans, chirping about the potential of Sean Payton and is it finally going to happen? And, they've been talking about it for so long, but bottom line is he is not going to be the head coach of the New Orleans Saints. And he is going to take what looks like at least a year away from the game. I'm sure we'll see him on TV plenty, and I'm sure we'll see him around football to some extent, whether that's TV and then more remains to be seen. But we're going to see him again sooner rather than later. And y'all's thoughts on Sean Payton stepping down in New Orleans?
The first thing I thought was I'm glad that he's at a place where he can step away and not have to get fired. Right. I don't think the Saints would have ever fired him.
Is he like there in New Orleans, Pete Carroll in Seattle?
Yeah, probably a little bit. And the other thing I think is that he's just, whether it's a headache for Jerry or not, created constant questions where people will ask, Jerry over the next year or so, as long as Mike McCarthy's employed, be like, so on Coach McCarthy, how do you feel about his performance, given the fact that Sean Payton is available for you to hire? Well, why wouldn't you compensate? Like, if you would trade a draft pick for this guy, wouldn't you trade or pay money for a coach that doesn't come off your salary cap and all those different things? Yeah, I do think that, and look, the Jones family loves Sean Payton. They loved him when he was the offensive coordinator there. There's a story Mike Florio has going around that says that there was a deal worked out for Sean Payton to come and Jason Garrett to get fired. But when Anthony Davis went to, left New Orleans, Mickey Loomis said, look, I can't be the guy who's overseeing the best player in the basketball team leaving and the coach that brought us a Super Bowl. So Sean Payton signed an extension then. Now, how much of that is Florio and how much of that is true, remains to be seen. But we were at Cowboys training camp a few years ago. The Cowboys employed at the time Sean Payton's daughter as an intern, and they love Sean Payton.
Well, but he had been there.
They love him. They love him. They love him. So it's always going to be there. Whether he wants their coach.
I don't know.
There been for some fans it is, yeah, definitely.
You think Jerry has always kind of had that?
I don't think it really comes from Jerry.
Okay.
I mean, he's hired multiple coaches, in the time frame that Sean Payton stuff has been talked about. I'm sure he's had some interest, but I don't think it's I think it's mostly a fan thing. I do because Jerry's consistent as well, but I've never heard him even say the word Sean Payton, I don't think. And if I have, it didn't mean anything at the time to me. So I think it's fan talk, but regardless, he can't go to the Cowboys right now anyways. Adam Schefter saw, I guess, all the scuttlebutt about, Cowboys fans or just Cowboys mentions and whatnot, and he did provide a caveat to all of the talk about that. He said that Payton to Dallas is not happening, and he added that it could not happen in 2022 as, of course, Payton doesn't plan on coaching, but also Schefter said there are many things Sean Payton could do this year. Coaching an NFL team is unlikely to be one. He remains under contract to New Orleans for 3 more seasons. He wants some time to decompress, and the Saints would want compensation if they ever were to relinquish his rights. So he's under contract, and if the Cowboys really did want him and they wanted to make a deal for him, they would have to make a deal for him. It wouldn't be as simple as just like, oh, you're available? Okay, we're going to go and hire you now. So that's not happening for the time being, but don't think for one second it's not going to continue to be a conversation and that Mike McCarthy won't probably have to look over his shoulder just a tiny bit. All right.
We can ask John about that too, McLean. That'll be good to get his feedback on it.
Yeah, we can definitely talk to him about that. You mentioned earlier today, Keontae George, Baylor basketball commit, named a McDonald's All-American, gives the Baylor men and McDonald's All-American, but the Baylor women also had one. Dariana Little Page Buggs, women's basketball commit, she was also named a McDonald's All-American, so they actually have one on both sides, and I wanted to mention that as well. The NFL this past weekend, big-time ratings for the NFL. Nearly 37 million viewers on Fox Saturday night watching 49ers and Packers, a 40% increase over the Ravens-Bills game that was featured in the same time slot a year prior. The divisional round game was TV's most-watched Saturday event. Listen to this now. Most-watched Saturday event in 28 years. Dating back to the 94 Olympics in Lillehammer. Sunday's Bills-Chiefs game averaged 42.7 million viewers on CBS, highest mark of the entire season, most watched divisional game since Packers-Cowboys in 2017 drew an extra 300,000 for 43 million, a 21% increase from last year's Bucks-Saints game. And in the early slot, Rams-Bucks, 38.1 million, NBC's most watched game other than Super Bowls since it returned to NFL broadcasting in 2006. Bengals-Titans, 30.8 million, largest audience for a Saturday game since Chiefs-Patriots in 2016, which drew 31.5 million. So this is the first time since at least the year 2000 in which 3 games have averaged at least 40 million viewers before even hitting conference championship weekend, according to Sports Media Watch. Bills-Chiefs was one of them. Cowboys-Niners was another. And then Raiders-Cowboys on Thanksgiving. All 3 of those broadcasts drew 40 million viewers this season. So first time in 21 years that they've hit a mark like that. And this doesn't even count like all the, who watched on Sling.
Nickelodeon.
Or Nickelodeon. I'm sure the Nickelodeon numbers are actually probably lumped in there somehow or another.
I think they actually come out with their broadcast. I think that's delayed.
Okay, well, then there's even more than we thought. But bottom line is the NFL is ratings king, and even more so right now, probably as strong as they've been in a really long time.
That's why I laugh. That's why I laugh when people go, I'm not going to watch it because I don't like this political thing. You're like, okay, you know what they're going to notice? Nothing.
I have my political beliefs, but I watched every damn one of them, and I couldn't take my eyes off it. That 2017 Cowboys was the Jared Cook catch on the throw from Rodgers that set up Mason Crosby and a 51-yard field goal as time expired.
This is the closest I came to ever being unprofessional in a press box.
What?
It was.
You and Elwin?
Yeah, Elwin was just 2 seats down. He was very unprofessional, as he is all the time. But the 3 people in our little group, or 4 people that kind of hang out, all of us were this close to being like, "Are you bleeping kidding me?"
Yeah.
With Aaron Rodgers.
So the Cowboys fan and you came out?
I mean, all of us were like, we looked at each other and you could tell we all wanted to be like,
puckered a
yeah,
little.
just like,
Oh, Paul, I didn't need to know that.
So I want to give a shout out to Houston defensive line coach Brian Early. He did something a little while ago, earlier today, that you don't see many college coaches doing. There's so much talk about the transfer portal, and you can tell there's probably some coaches out there who are a little bit bitter at times when guys leave. And maybe not bitter is even the right word, but Blake Anderson wasn't happy when William Bradley King decided to go to Baylor, but he was cool. He was cool with it. Tulsa's Phillip Montgomery. He wasn't bitter. He wasn't mad about Jackson Player coming back to Waco. He understood. But there are situations where I think there are coaches who are a little bit bitter about maybe how some of these guys leave. But that is not the case with Brian Early and his now former player, Alexander Duke. This is not a big deal by any means, but it kind of is because it's just so different from the typical reality we see on a daily basis. He sent out a tweet. If you're looking for a 3-4 outside linebacker, we've got one. Alexander Duke, that just hit the transfer portal and needs a place to play. Intelligent, good motor, has some skills, 1 year left to play, graduated, and is leaving on good terms. If you're interested, let me know. So that's from Houston D-line coach Brian Early talking about his now former player, Alexander Duke, and trying to help him out a little bit in the transfer portal, which I felt like mentioning because it's not something we've really seen much of, if at all, quite frankly.
Well, we hear about the decommits, and there are a bunch when it comes to national high school kids, but really there's not as many. But there's more now than ever. But most of the time we look at that. Like I saw the Harold Perkins, that 5-star stud who decommitted from A&M in that great class that they had. He hadn't signed yet. Now we'll sign that first Wednesday in February. They get all the attention, but there's some good behind everything. Nothing wrong with him decommitting. He can do whatever he wants. It's his career life, but that's good to hear. That's good to see.
Dicky V is not going to be calling any more college basketball games this year. Diagnosed with lymphoma and vocal cord dysplasia a year ago. He announced just yesterday that he needs to continue to rest his voice, and he will not be on any more college basketball broadcasts on ESPN this season. He said that he has reduced the inflammation in his vocal cords by about 60%, but he will still need surgery in the near future. He wrote in a post, "My throat's condition is clearly moving in the right direction. My doctor's very optimistic this can be successfully treated to have me strong for the 2022-2023 season on ESPN." And despite having to have surgery, he said that it's a separate issue from his cancer treatments and that he's happy to report, according to his doctors, his ongoing chemo for lymphoma continues to progress positively as well. I've seen what cancer can do. I feel so lucky. He was diagnosed with lymphoma back in October. It's the second time he was diagnosed with cancer in a 3-month span. So this is not necessarily related to that, but still no Dicky V on broadcast the rest of the year.
We have had him on, and I actually sent him a text, and I'm not just like dropping a name. I sent him a text earlier today, and I said, listen, I hope you understand how many millions of college basketball fans love you and how you helped put the game not on the map, but what you did for the game. And you heard Seth Greenberg and Reese Davis, among others, say that as well. And he just put the old heart at the very top corner. God, he's so good. And I know that sometimes he can be a little bit over much for, you know what, the guy has raised hundreds of millions of dollars in the Jimmy V Foundation, and now he himself is battling cancer. And I wish him the very best of luck. God, I love the guy.
On3 Sports reported earlier today that there is a team that has not really been talked about much that could be in the Caleb Williams sweepstakes, as Caleb Williams continues to just be the belle of the ball free agent in college football. He said, or the report said, according to Jerry Hamilton, Wisconsin has emerged as a true contender to land quarterback Caleb Williams. Did not elaborate too much more. There was a story attached, and they went into a little bit of the details, but a lot of it was just recapping his stats from this season and kind of sort of getting into the details and taking quotes from Pete Thamel, who was discussing this. He brought up that when Caleb was in high school, it took 1.5 years for him to decide on Oklahoma. And I guess it was his father said, we've got to do it now in 2 weeks. So it could happen, his decision at the end of this week, but there's also teams on the quarter system where they could wait until March. They also want to see how NFL hires that could trickle down to college shake out because they really want NFL training for Caleb Williams to best prepare him for pro football. So the family's weighing their options, and his dad told them last night, NFL, not NIL, is the guiding light of what the family is doing, meaning they want to go to the place where he's best prepared to go to the NFL and ultimately be the number one pick in the 2024 draft.
Well, I said that when this all happened, and people were like, oh, this NIL money. Like, Caleb Williams would get NIL money if he went to a junior college. I mean, he's that popular. He's going to get it wherever he goes. So that number, whatever people think it is, he's going to get that money because he is going to be that popular. The NFL thing, that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad his family and he's being prudent about it. I will say this. I feel really bad for Jackson Dart right now because I think Jackson Dart is there's probably a couple of places they're both looking at, and Jackson's got to be like, listen, buddy, I just need to know.
Yep, a couple more notes, and there's one that I don't feel like we're going to have time to, but we got to talk about Iowa and their finances. I just stumbled upon a story because of Gary Barta, and I don't know if we have time to do it in this segment because, like I said, there are a couple of other notes that I want to get to, but Iowa is deep in the mud in terms of finance. Like, not like the school's going to shut down or anything, but the amount of money they've lost, it's incredible. We'll have to return to it at some point.
All right, we maybe get somebody on the discussion.
There's some interesting things going on there. Of course, it was revealed last week about Kirk Ferentz that, and all the things that happened, and he formed a committee to suggest, culture, how to change the culture. And the committee said, look, the best way to change the culture is that if you retired, and he said, well, I'm done with this committee.
Yeah.
So, whether they're right or not or whatever, it's a bad look to when the committee says, well, you're the problem with the culture. And like, here's your culture,
Well, the main point of the story that was fascinating to me was the fact that they are operating at a $41 million, actually closer to $42 million deficit as far as the losses go because of the pandemic, because of I guess just all sorts of factors, but obviously COVID-19 played a significant role in that. But yeah, Iowa Athletics Department operated at a deficit of nearly $42 million in the past academic year.
Yeah, I'm going to work on getting a guest on.
Yeah, but it's an interesting story, and it gets into it a little bit more. But I just saw that, and I know schools are losing money and definitely have been cost by lack of attendance and things like that. But that was just like, whoa, $42 million deficit. All right, couple smaller notes. I saw Jeremy Reisman, who I guess covers the Detroit Lions. He put this out there with all the head coaching changes. There's now 9 open jobs in the NFL right now. 9 head coaching vacancies in the league. So a third of the league almost will be replacing head coaches next year. But because of the first-year head coach on Hard Knocks rule and all the other rules for who makes it and who doesn't, there's only 3 teams that could be on Hard Knocks based on the current rules. Those 3 teams, the New York Jets, the Detroit Lions, which is probably why he stumbled upon that, and they're basically eligible every year, and the Carolina Panthers.
Whoa!
Jets, Panthers.
Well, there's some drama there.
Yeah, there is. Jets, Panthers, Lions, probably going to be one of those teams for Hard Knocks.
I would think, and I know Matt Rhoades got to worry about just keeping his job right now, but I would think that's the last thing he would ever want.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
With the kind of just that NFL mentality and, of course, what he did at Baylor and Temple. But I like Matt Rhule. I can't say a bad word about him. He treated me awfully well, and that's all I can go off of. And I'm not a Panthers fan, so I don't care about what they do, quite frankly. But, man, is he getting just so much heat thrown his way, especially the last few weeks. And, that's what you sign up for, though, when things aren't going well. I mean, that's an NFL head coaching job for you, but I truly, sincerely do wish it would, work out. But, man, there's a lot of work to be done there in Charlotte. And final note, it looks like the end of the Chris Mack era in Louisville could be very near. University of Louisville has called a joint meeting for tomorrow at 4 o'clock for the Board of Trustees and the U of L Athletic Association. The meeting will address pending litigation and personnel matters, and the Chris Mack Coaches Show scheduled for tonight has been canceled. So a lot of people taking that for
a big sign that Chris Mack might be out at Louisville as head basketball coach, and a lot of scuttlebutt about that. But we should find something out probably later on tonight, or I guess maybe tomorrow on that front. But his coach's show was canceled for tonight, so just another kind of sign that that's probably coming.
We have a listener, Chris, who sends me messages on Facebook quite a bit about Louisville, and he has been all over Mack.
So this is good news for him.
Oh yeah, they'll be thrilled.
Well, they're 11-9 right now, so that's not helping matters. And they just lost their last contest.
Another young, hot shot, up and coming guy that did a great job where he was.
Yeah, but he looks like he's probably going to be his way out. They just lost to Virginia last night, 64-52, and that was their their fifth loss in their last 6 games.
Louisville,
like
right?
I said, they're 11-9 on the year, so that looks like it's coming down the tracks, and there's a few things off the radar.
Thank you, Craig, very much. By the way, I was asked about Mack Rhoades and Dave Aranda and restructuring or renewing or extending whatever they're going to do. And one of the things that Baylor is also doing is making sure that some of those perks, and this is not official, but I think it's something we could talk about eventually, but some of the perks or bonuses and all of that would not be so much through the university money, but also through the possibility of donor money as well, which is not uncommon in college athletics. When we come back, we'll update the Baseball Hall of Fame, although just another maybe ballot or two has trickled in. Right now, David Ortiz looks really good. I don't want to sit there and call it yet as far as they do in elections, but I think you could with him. And then right just above that 75% Bonds and Roger Clemens. Sikkim, 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco, is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfect pizza. Bob Mock has owned Marco's Pizza franchises since 2013 and has been delivering pizza since 2001 and is the proud owner of 4 locations in the Waco area, in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to be open in Robinson. Order at marcos.com to make any moment better. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
it's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links, and you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strips, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Jet motion they go with here with Baldwin. And Baldwin breaks free. And the Bears sick him. Monterey Baldwin.
The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
We are now joined by the defending national champion head basketball coach and Scott Drew after the wins on the road, bouncing back with the win Saturday against Oklahoma and Kansas State tomorrow night at home at the Ferrell Center. Scott, thank you very much for your time. Did James Akinjo, in a game in which he only scored a couple of points, did he actually, in the eyes of maybe Baylor faithful and your players, grow even more with his legacy because he just tried to play?
Let me try that again.
A lot of times people tell you, hey, if you're hurt, don't play because it's going to affect your stats, going to affect maybe your draft stock. And I can tell you every coach loves a player that wants to play for the team, wants to do everything he can to help the team, and doesn't care if he's not at 100%, and if his minutes might be cut down or whatnot. They're just about the team, and I think James has shown that. And I know at the end of the day, that's really what matters. And I know he wants to play pro ball someday, and I can tell you every NBA GM and coach will appreciate that as well. And the great thing is, if our trainers and doctors say someone can't go, we're not going to put them in harm's way. And if the coaches don't think that they can be a positive influence for the team, we're not going to put them in that situation either. So again, thanks for asking the question. And James definitely a huge basket in which he got fouled, or when he fell on his tailbone again. Real critical. They stopped a 12-1 run and helped us reestablish things.
What have you learned about this particular team in the last couple of weeks, where you have two losses in a row and you kind of have to readjust what your roles are while people are out, and they, over the next two games, have, even though it's not been maybe what they were used to in that 15-game winning streak to start the year, have adjusted pretty well?
Well, I think first and foremost, we have a team that cares about each other, cares about winning, and I think you look, for instance, James not knowing if he was going to play or not, and then last minute he's a go. And LJ just had a huge game at West Virginia. He's back coming off the bench, and he could care less. Everyone wants to start, wants to play, but I mean, he whatever coach, and that's what it was. And I think across the board, everyone's either stepped up when they need to step up, or sacrificed when they needed to sacrifice. And that's what great teams do, is they put others first.
You know, shooters shoot. The guys who are great corners are going to get beat on a touchdown on occasion. Quarterbacks are going to throw interception. Kickers are going to miss kicks. But the game in which Adam Flagler, and how he has bounced back from the game at home when he struggled, he started to get a couple of rolls off the rim, a bounce, a touch off the glass. Isn't that that's why you just keep shooting if you're Adam Flagler?
Oh, most definitely. I mean, Steph Curry's probably the best shooter in recent time, and think even last night when he 1 for 10 against Utah at one point or something, and there's games where people go 2 for 15, and that just happens. And it's kind of like baseball. I mean, you think about it, you're a Hall of Famer if you average 333, probably, right? And that means only 1 out of 3 attempts are going well. So same thing with shooting. If you're a career 40% 3-point shooter, you're an unbelievable shooter. That means you're missing 6 out of 10. So the key is always, are you getting the right ones? And then how's your balance, your form, your rotation, your wrist snap, the fundamentals? If all that's good, you just keep shooting. But that's why at the same time, it's great to have, you can't win unless you got a deep team and you have multiple players capable of carrying the load defensively, offensively, rebounding wise, because every game is not going to be your game. You're not going to be on your A game every game.
Coach, what was the key to kind of flipping the script in terms of turnovers from that first meeting? You guys had a boatload of turnovers, 26, I believe, but defensively, 16 steals against Oklahoma. What was the key to changing that around from the first go-round?
Well, I think we still had 17, which was too many, but not nearly as many live ball turnovers, and several of them came at the very end of the game when, like, if a shot clock violation at 2:30 in the game, that's not killing you. So, like, the right times, that's when you want to have them, and definitely not live ball turnovers. And I think we're getting better just playing and getting more familiar with each other, and then also just the defenses. I mean, they're so good in the Big 12. I saw Fran Priscilla tweeted the Ken Palm analytics from our league today, and aren't we like at an 18, and the next highest league's a 15? I mean, it's not even close. So when you're playing against top defenses night in and night out, I mean, there's a reason they're a top 30 defense. They're good.
Do you kind of have to go into games knowing that, like, if you get to 80 points or 85, it's just because somebody, you just gotten really hot? Because even the bottom rung of the league, is built around defense right now.
Well, definitely you're trying to score as many as you can, and hopefully you can get to 80 at the same time. There's so much that goes into that, and what I mean by that is pace of play. If the other team is working at 25, 30 seconds, I mean, the games are going to be in the 60s rather than in the 70s and 80s. And you're not having a top defense if you give up transition buckets. And that means you're probably not turning it over as much, and you're probably not taking bad shots. So when you get separation in this league, enjoy it, because it's only going to happen 1 or 2 or 3 nights. And the other thing with that, I think you look at our team last year, for instance, we were able to get separation several times because I think you had a couple teams that were younger. And this year, you don't seem to have that youth, because you have teams that basically brought in 5th year, 4th year, 3rd year, 6th year guys. So you have a lot of experienced players that just don't give up and don't get rattled. And then on top of that, now throw the fans in. And I think that's huge, because if you don't have the fans, and especially at home, you get down like Oklahoma State. We were playing, as you know, not very well and got down big, but our fans helped us get back in it, because once you do something well, they give you that inspiration and motivation to keep going and persevering and fighting through things. So, I mean, it's hard to bury a team on the road as well.
Scott, you have this behind the scenes with ESPN Plus, and obviously the documentary that came out the last 2 weeks has gotten nothing but rave reviews as well. But the documentary, or the series, when there are people there, everything you're doing, is that at times a distraction, or have you gotten used to it because you get covered so well?
Well, I think the answer to both questions would be yes, it can be a distraction at times. But one, the film crew we have, TL and her group, are true professionals. Yep. And I mean, they are so easy to get along with and do such a great job. They've made that something that's been a blessing. Number two, with that, I think if if you're a program that's got stuff to hide, you're obviously not wanting people around all the time. But like with our guys, it's just such a great opportunity for them to be role models and have people get a chance to know them. I know we have some features coming up with our different players in the next couple of weeks, and I know they're great role models, and it's going to be something where I know they have a chance to help influence the younger generation on just what to achieve, what to set goals for, how to go about it, how to be a good person all around.
Scott, got Kansas State coming up. They had the tough loss to Kansas, but had a couple of big wins. Before that, also got the SEC Challenge coming up later this week. Looking ahead to, obviously, tomorrow is what matters most important, but K-State and then the SEC Challenge. Your thoughts on this week of games?
Well, let's start with K-State, and I mean they've had everybody together for 3 games, and in those 3 games they beat Texas Tech, they beat Texas, and then they very easily could have beat Kansas. I mean, so they're as good as anybody in the league, and if they had everybody healthy all year long, they're probably a top 20 team. So, I mean, those are 3 pretty good games, and 2-1, and could have very easily been 3-0. And the games they lost before that, when they weren't whole with so many people out, were 2 points and 3 points and 3 points. So, and one was 13, but I mean, that's again, just the top to bottom in our league. There's no easy game. So we know, we got to be on our A game. The good thing is when we go over scout and we show clips of the other team, our guys see how good they are and understand how good they are, and makes it a little easier to know they'll be fired up and ready to go. And weekday games are tough for, I know, students and fans and everybody, and that's why they're so critical. If you watch a game or affect it, and as many students and Baylor fans that can affect it, we need you. Then SEC Challenge, that's a big deal to us. We've taken challenges very serious, and I know we have a great opponent. I know they have a great home court atmosphere, and we're excited to represent the Big 12.
But do they have Scott Drew in their bear pit? How much fun was that? Bill Fennelly said it yesterday. He coached your sister, I believe, but he was talking to, and he tried to recruit Nikki to Toledo. How much fun? You guys, you and all your staff had a great time, it appears.
Well, Coach Finley's a family friend, unbelievable coach. Did a great job with my sister and Nikki, and her family's very close with him as well. And he didn't know we were going in the bear pit, and so I had to make sure early on in warm-ups when I started the old sit-down coach, and he looked up like, who's heckling me? That was I did enjoy that part. But anyway, he runs a first-class program, and I know Nikki thinks very highly of too. So we're usually cheering for him as long as he's not playing Baylor. And obviously, Coach Tang loved talking to the officials and not having to worry about a technical. So he was in heaven too. But the staff, we enjoy cheering on one another. And as you know, during season, you're just so busy. Otherwise, you go to a lot more games. Mm-hmm. But you're always prepping and getting ready. And it was great that we could spend a little time and have fun and help support them. And it was a great game for the women.
Is that cathartic to get to yell when you don't normally?
Well, you know what? You let out some of that Big 12 frustration.
I love it. Scott, thank you very much. We appreciate it. Always enjoy anytime we get you on the show.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you. Thanks for the question.
Scott Drew. Again, that game is at 7 o'clock tonight at the Farrell Center. Kansas State and Baylor. At the Farrell Center, 7 o'clock is the tip. When we come back, we'll hear from Hall of Fame writer John McClain, his thoughts about, the NFL playoffs and Sean Payton in that news. Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Dr. Kent Petty, what can he do for you, make you feel better, be the man you want to be right now? Like almost immediately. Here's how he can do this. First of all, go to their website, Petty Clinic, lowt.com, top left-hand corner. There's a phone number and an email address. You can do either one as far as click or call and tell them I sent you. Here's why you'd want to do that. If you are, let's say, in your lower 30s or mid-early 30s, and maybe even older than that, your testosterone level can start to change. If you have any of these symptoms, it doesn't mean testosterone has dropped, but it could. Sleep habits are bad, your energy is not as good, maybe your focus, and your sex drive is not what it used to be. So if you have those symptoms, it could be your testosterone. 1 out of every 3 men have symptomatic issues of low testosterone, and sometimes you have all 3, and that's okay. Dr. Ken Petty will get you set up with the lab work, get your blood results, check your testosterone levels. Call him an email, tell him I sent you, and then check your testosterone levels, and if they are too low, lower than they need to be, he can put you in a program to help you increase your testosterone levels and help you become the high-performance man that you used to be, you want to be, and you need to be. Petty Clinic, lowt.com.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like First Free Checking, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Brad Boozer, Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. Brad, what makes you different than anyone else, in your opinion, as far as what Boozer's does?
The fact that I own the jewelry store, anything I need to do, will do, or can do, I can do it. The buck stops with me, whereas a lot of places you have to go up the corporate command and corporate channel. Well, if you come in and want to make a deal, we sit there and we make the deal.
And you can find whatever someone's looking for, correct?
Anything is obtainable. I don't care what brand it is, what size it is, how much it costs, large or small. Anything is obtainable, and we can definitely get that in for you to see, look at, or buy.
Do you have the opportunity, if people have to pay things off, as far as a layaway program? What about what you have with financing?
Absolutely. We have 12-month no-interest financing. We have layaway. If you want to pay with Bitcoin, I can take Bitcoin now. So if there's any way you want to pay for it, we can find a way out to make it work.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics. The team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injuries, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John McClain of the Houston Chronicle, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
John McClain, Hall of Fame writer, Houston Chronicle, with us, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. And John, we'll start with Sean Payton in New Orleans. And your thoughts, I guess this was kind of starting to rumble a little bit. Your thoughts about his decision?
First of all, he had maybe the best coaching job of his career this year. They had a winning record despite having to start 4 quarterbacks, including a rookie, Ian Book. And I don't blame him wanting to walk away because they're in a terrible situation with a salary cap. They got a lot of veterans they're going to have to get rid of. But if he stays out a year and goes into TV, first of all, if he goes on TV, he's going to have to be very careful about what he says. Because anything he says about a coach, a team, a player, people are going to throw it back in his face when he returns to coaching. And number 2, it's going to require a lot of compensation if you want him. As another team, John Gruden cost 2 1s and 2 2s. He won a Super Bowl, but Al Davis, that's what he got for letting him out of his contract. And Sean Payton is, I think, a better coach than John Gruden. Another thing, everybody has him going to the Cowboys. He has total control over personnel in New Orleans. Who has total control over personnel in Dallas? Jerry Jones. Is Jerry going to give it up in a contract and say, I'll step away and you have final say? No. Jerry makes these decisions with Will McClay as outstanding personnel director. So even though Jerry and Sean Payton are friends, Jerry tried to hire him 3 years ago. I just think Payton would be in a totally different situation where he wouldn't be the man. He would have to take, he'd have to coach in Jerry's shadow. And if they keep Mike McCarthy for a year and then fired him, the fans would be happy about that. And another thing, what if Dennis Allen does a great coaching job with the Saints? Do they say, Dennis, sorry, you can be defensive coordinator again. Sean's coming back. It just opens up a whole can of worms.
Yeah. John, who do you think will be the head coach? Do you think they'll stay within Dennis Allen and move on, or do you think that they'll go outside the organization?
I think they'll promote Dennis Allen unless there's somebody they've already talked to. There's not enough good ones to go around for all the openings they have right now, Paul. They've got 9. That would be 10. There's still rumblings. Pete Carroll might leave Seattle. I don't buy it. And just like I believe Russell Wilson will be back, Aaron Rodgers will be back, and Tom Brady will be back, and Sean Payton will be back in coaching in 2023. But whoever wants it in 2023 is going to have to pay a steep price.
John, you've seen a lot of NFL playoff weekends. Where's this past one rank up there?
Craig, there's never been another one like it, for every game to be decided on the last play. And the Buffalo-Kansas City game, it wasn't the greatest game in history. There have been some great playoff games, but the last 2 minutes and overtime, there's never been anything like what we saw at the end of that game between Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen. And there's some defensive coaches and some defensive players who should be embarrassed, starting with the Bills, 13 seconds left. And the only way you can lose that game is if you screw it up, and they did.
Yeah, that John, I tell you what, I mean, you and I, we've been around a little bit longer than these young kids, and that's insane. And I don't want to say, oh, because it's the most recent weekend. I've never seen anything like it. I mean, is there even been anything written about a comparable divisional playoffs of 4 games in 1 weekend in NFL history?
I don't think anything's been written about it because there's never been anything like it. And where every game was settled at the end. And you always hear defense wins championships. Well, if the 49ers win it, that'll be true. But if these other teams win it, the game now is all about the quarterback. And I'm writing a column for Thursday about the AFC is so far ahead of the NFC with young, outstanding quarterbacks like Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, Lamar Jackson, Deshaun Watson's still in the AFC. And NFC top young quarterback, Kyler Murray and Jalen Hurts, so they lag way behind, and they need to catch up, or we could start seeing the AFC dominate the Super Bowl.
It's pretty amazing to me that in a weekend where Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers both get knocked out, that's a story, two of them, but it really wasn't the weekend story.
No, absolutely not. Yeah. John, what do you think Aaron Rodgers will do?
He'll stay in Green Bay and get a contract extension. That's my opinion, because several of his good friends who are in the media, that's what they've said. And I believe them, because last year when all the hand-wringing was going on and he was holding the Packers hostage right up to training camp, those same guys said he will be back. They didn't say, I think he'll be back. They said he will be back. John Kuhn, the fullback, former fullback, who's good friends with him, pointed out he has become good friends with Brian Gutekunst, the general manager, and that was the problem he had last year, and it's no longer a problem.
John, I'm not asking this because I've seen this question posed so many times in the past, and then it just got rehashed this weekend. But what are your thoughts on the NFL's overtime rules?
I think that since defense is still played, if you want the ball, stop them. That's why they play defense. Now, I also would love, as a fan, to be able to see if Patrick Mahomes could have scored a touchdown against the Patriots, if Josh Allen could have scored another touchdown against the Chiefs. It's funny, when Mahomes didn't get the ball, when the league meetings came in March, the Chiefs were front and center wanting to get overtime rules changed. Somehow, I don't think they're going to be front and center this year.
Yeah, and there's I kind of go back and forth, and I might be like the wind, where like a flag blowing in the wind. There are times in which like Craig yesterday immediately go, did Buffalo have a chance to stop them? Yes, okay, stop them. I wish there was a way, but I don't know the answer. I think there's so many different options, but I don't know the answer. I just don't. And like I said, John, am I wrong by saying this? Really, overtime began with 3 or 4 minutes left in that game. And so that was overtime, right?
Absolutely. And one of the reasons they don't want to make it go longer is the games are long enough as it is, and the players play long enough as it is, and they don't want to extend it anymore. But as a fan, when you're watching an incredible game, I don't care if the game's 5 hours, but it's a great game. I want to see it.
What's it like to see the Cincinnati Bengals in a conference championship game, and just how impressed have you been by Joe Burrow? And I know it's not just him. They got a pretty dang good wide receiver and some other players as well. But just the turnaround and just the entire feel of that franchise.
They got lucky. They were the worst team in the league. They got the first pick, and a generational quarterback was available. And there's a lot of people like in Houston and other cities, well, we've been the worst team. We've got the worst. We've had the first pick, and there hasn't even been a quarterback available. So it's all about the timing. Now, I was stunned when Zach Taylor got that job. First 2 years, they were terrible. Now, because of Burrow and Jamar Chase and some of those other young guys, they're built to last.
John, Baylor men's basketball tonight at home against Kansas State. Bounced back after a couple of difficult losses to swallow with the Tech and also Oklahoma State at home. And here comes Scott Drew again, and they're kind of right back, it seemed like. It appears it's going to be tough to be playing pretty well, even with Akinjo still hurt and Sohan not playing.
Yeah, when is Sohan going to come back? Does anybody have a clue?
I saw when I was at the women's game Sunday, he walked down the hallway in the tunnel that goes from where the weight room is. He walked, again, I don't think he had a boot on. He looked like he was walking fine. But when I asked Scott Drew about a week ago, is it sooner rather than later, he wouldn't give me that answer. But I do think he's been working out. I just don't know when.
Well, I think he wouldn't give you the answer because he doesn't know. And I'll tell you what, with Akinjo, having Cryer and Flagler to play, those guys have stepped up. I'd like to see Kendall Brown this time for him to step up. He played well early, hit a lull, and I love watching him play. And I can't wait to see him against Kansas State. I was sweating it. Losing to Tech was one thing, but losing that Oklahoma State game, that was something else. It just shows how great the Big 12 is, and it's going to get better when Houston and Cincinnati come in. It's going to be even tougher when they can get out those lightweight Sooners and Longhorns.
John, the Baseball Hall of Fame was announced. Roger Clemens not getting in. Barry Bonds not getting in. Big Papi, David Ortiz getting in on the first ballot. Can you, on the Hall of Fame committee for the NFL, reach across the aisle to Major League Baseball and fix how they do this nonsense?
Well, first of all, our bylaws say we don't legislate morals. We care about what happens on the field. Pete Rose would have been in. Bonds and Clemens would have been in. And that's just the way the bylaws read. Plus, there's 49 of us on the committee. We argue, we debate. Where baseball's 400 people. And so Big Papi is the first person in the Hall of Fame who's tested positive for PEDs. And it's funny because Bonds and Clemens never tested positive. Now they're out for the modern era candidacy, and it'll have to be one of those many committees they have to put them in, and I'm guessing it's not going to be anytime soon.
Hey, John, if you don't mind, if you're on the Hall of Fame, you're not only a person that is a part of that, you're in it, but you also are a voter, and you have presented before. Have you been, or is the Veterans Committee separate from what you and Rick Gosselin and Shireen and all those others? Is that separate?
Yes, we have our big committee of 49, then we have contributors, coaches, and senior committees. I'm on senior and coaches as well. And we come up with one nominee each year for the big committee to consider. That's how Drew Pearson got in. I'm sure Cliff Branch will get in as a senior, Art McNally as a contributor, and Dick Vermeil as a coach, because the big committee rubber stamps them now because they know what we go through to come up with that one nominee.
So when you're in a meeting like that on the veterans or those who have not been elected during their time, do you guys sometimes just sit there and go, what the F, why isn't this what's going on here? We got to get so-and-so in, or is it not maybe not that informal?
There are 58, Rick Gosselin figured this up, there are 58 players who are members of their all-decade team who are not in the Hall of Fame.
Wow.
And there are 53 of them have not even made the finalists to be discussed in the room by the committee, which we did last Tuesday. And so we call Paul Zimmerman, the late Dr. Z, call the seniors the swamp, because when you fall in, you just get lost. And so that's one reason it's important, those other committees, to nominate the right person every year. It's an incredible responsibility, and we'd like to see them allow us to do 2 seniors a year.
As always, John, thank you, sir. Oh, by the way, we had Mack Rhoades on, as he's usually on with us Tuesday, when we brought up Dave Aranda. And, of course, they have been working slowly but methodically, I guess you could say, on a new deal. He said, when we asked him, he said soon, and then he said, Baylor fans, stand by. So that's coming down the pipeline as well.
I saw that, and I retweeted your tweet. That's great news, and sick 'em.
There you go, John McClain. God, I love John McClain. He's the best ever.
So let me get this straight. The big committee in the NFL is less than 60 voters, but the New York Post has 10 Baseball Hall of Fame votes alone. Just that one entity, the vaunted New York Post.
It's like the government.
I just saw this from Gil Lebertine. It takes 4 yes votes to overcome 1 no because of the 75% rule.
Oh, that's good. No, that's a great point, Paul.
We do this every year. Baseball Hall of Fame sucks. Their voters suck. They are the worst. They are the biggest nerds and snobs in all of Hall of Fame voting, and it's just a joke. They try to pretend like it's this perfect little. It's like so many frauds, that you see, but they try to pretend like this is pristine, clean game where, well, we can't allow the bad apples to get in here. And it's like, that was the whole reason it was even popular in the late 90s was the bad apples. Nobody else was going to be watching if it wasn't for Sosa and McGuire and Bonds and all those guys. Are you kidding me?
The game was dying. You're right.
And now look where it is. And it's back to where it was. They would die for a Bonds, Sosa, McGuire home run race right now.
In 1994, they had a strike right as the season was getting good. And the baseball fans even died. The people were like, that's it. Double birds to you.
Yep.
How can you do this to me? They're like,
I dare them not to have a season this year.
There are careers that are completely different because of that strike and what happened. And then Cal Ripken, when baseball was on the mat and bleeding, stopped the bleeding by being Cal Ripken and having a streak. But then it was still like, almost flatlining. McGuire and Sosa came in, and everywhere you went, all summer long, people were talking about it.
I'll never forget being in a Sears one time. Just like a TV, like the one we have up on the wall here, and sitting there just staring at the TV because they were playing against each other.
No, there's kids now, they will have no way to wrap their heads around how people would stop their days to watch a single at-bat of McGuire and Sosa and then later Bonds as well. I mean, that's never probably going to happen again, ever. And I don't care how many young stars come up or whatever. That was pure magic, whether it was real magic or, substance magic. Regardless, that's the biggest baseball was in my lifetime, and it hasn't been anywhere close to that since. And now I get the feeling more now than ever before of just there's just this like the people, like a large portion of sports fans just simply do not care anymore.
It's unfortunate because there's some great young stars. By the way, Paul, on the clarification, like Mack Rhoades and Soon, double birds, is that one on each hand or double birds on each hand?
There's just one on each hand.
Do one on each hand.
Yeah, you can't.
Here's the thing. And this would be a top 5. Players or athletes who have made you stop and watch them when you've dropped, maybe you're at a restaurant or whatever, and I would think Michael Jordan, and then you mentioned a couple of others, perhaps Bonds.
Patrick Mahomes, for some.
Tiger.
Yeah.
And there aren't many.
Barry Bonds was certainly one of them. And here's the thing. When McGuire and Sosa were great because it was them chasing each other, but Barry Bonds that year was hitting them at a clip that was embarrassing even them.
Yeah.
And they were great where Barry Bonds was like, all right, might as well walk him. If there's a base open, walk him. And,
here's another thing about the steroid era. And Bonds had the one nuts year of 73 home runs. Do you know all the other years? It's not like he did 73, 66. Every other year was 50 or 49 and below, and a lot of 40s and a lot of 30s and 46, 46, 45 afterwards. But he had the one nuts year, the 73. And I'm not so sure that wasn't a combination of juice, and the ball might have been juice. It's not like he was a Hall of Famer prior to that. Now, this is like red states and blue states when people think about who gets in. If you're a cheater, you can't get in no matter what. And yet some of those same people themselves maybe are not living the cleanest life.
Is Bud Selig in the Hall of Fame?
He was the commissioner.
Yeah, he's in.
I guess he is.
He's in, right?
He's the one that oversaw all this.
Okay. Is Tony La Russa in?
Yep.
Okay. I mean, the guys who let them do it are in. It wasn't against the other thing about people forget about steroids. It wasn't some clandestine thing, really. It was out in the open. It's not like the managers and the coaches and the owners didn't know what was going on. Mark McGuire during 1998 had Andro in his locker, and there's 500 baseball writers
I'll never forget
pointing cameras at him, or people pointing cameras and microphones at him every day. And they even asked him about Andro. It's like, well, I can use it. And then they're like, oh, well, this is wrong now. Well, yeah, steroids are bad, but if you don't make a rule against it, who are you?
No. Before he really started juicing up, Barry Bonds was at 500 home runs before the craziness of the 73 and then a few others after that.
How well attended do you think the Poppy celebration will be compared to the Poppy Bonds Clemens, class they could have had? I mean, I'm sure there will be plenty of Red Sox fans that travel just, down the road to Cooperstown.
I love David Ortiz.
That'd be me.
You're gonna. I hope you get to go, and I might give you that day off the week. But
I'm going.
I want to be honest with you.
Yeah.
David Ortiz is a Hall of Fame baseball player, like Bonds or Clemens or whoever else. But one of the things I've noticed, and it's been going on for about a decade or two in football as well. You look at who are the guys who are broadcasters. Now, that doesn't mean you can be a good one. We've seen Emmett flame out. Yeah. But some guys, great agents or good PR and publicists, have put them in front of the television camera, and it has helped that too. We've seen that in the NFL, guys on the NFL Network, and we've seen it on ESPN, the analysts as well. And David Ortiz is fantastic on the baseball network. But at the same time, that doesn't hurt.
Is A-Rod getting in when it's his time?
I mean, he's already in. I mean, you would now. You got to think for A-Rod especially. You have
to. There's a lot of A-Rod PEDs, brother. Yeah. I mean, I can't have him in my Hall of Fame.
I don't know. It's just. It's just ridiculous. I know we're going to go over because we got that.
It's a great point by Gregory Krug. If taking steroids, and I've heard this before, was the only factor, Hulk Hogan would have hit 700 plus home runs. It's not just the fact that allowed you to hit the ball further. It's still eye coordination, hand coordination, eye whatever.
Yeah.
We can
hand-eye
go
coordination. So you got to have a sincere, a real talent to be able to hit a baseball as well as these guys hit baseballs. And no matter how many pounds of muscle you put on, in some cases that's going to hurt, not help. And it's certainly not going to be the difference in you hitting a curve for a homer over the right field fence and then not being able to do it.
Yeah.
You can either do it 50 pounds heavier with muscle, or you can do it your original, like Bonds did. Bonds is better than most Hall of Famers without the steroid years.
Was a tall,
without the steroid years, he's still better than most guys, and that's what's ridiculous about it. I mean, I know we're going to go over and over it, but
Juan Gonzalez's best years when he was not juiced up, although that was kind of when everything started changing a little bit towards the late night.
He got pretty obvious. Like, it got to the point where his arms were so freaking big.
I'm beating both of you up.
That's also when he started getting hurt because
this is your last
too much.
Yeah.
But yeah,
you're not going to
I love Juan Gonzalez.
I was going to get you a credential.
But look, here's the reason. Juan Gonzalez is not in the Rangers Ring of Honor because Juan is cantankerous.
He is now.
Yeah, but
he just didn't show up because he's cantankerous. Yeah.
But then, Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens and Kurt Schilling and all these guys are not in because they're not puppy dogs and rainbows. That's, I mean, and Big Papi wash it off because he is, and he deserves it, but that's why this is happening. And it also sucks for Papi because now people are saying all this about Papi. Well, it doesn't diminish the fact that he won 4 World Series for.
I think he's fine. No, he's too popular and too good of a person. I don't think. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina's top 5, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, traded a few text messages and email with Ted Teague. They have the all-new Wagoneer Series 2 and 3. 2.9% financing for 72 months. Also, $1,500 Conquest bonus cash for Chevy, Ford, GMC, and Toyota owners. Excuse me. I drove the Wagoneer 2 last week for just one day. It was Friday afternoon. That thing is a dude. That's an alpha dog. That's a beast. And then when I went to go pick it up at the dealership, I sat there and looked inside the Wagoneer 3. That might be the nicest SUV I've ever seen. It is phenomenal. Start something new. Sales event continues at Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat. I could go all over the amenities or whatever's inside these Wagoneers, but it's silly. The touch screens and all that. There now is, and Paul, Craig, you guys have a car where you could actually see your speed in the windshield. It does that, and I don't know. Sometimes that can be a little bit. If you don't like it, you can just turn it off. They now can. Is that new? Is it like 8-track tapes are no longer important? They have those type of little things that are always new.
I think it was that you were driving a 2001 for about 20 years, and that's been around for a while, actually. Yeah.
It's the best live endorsements never. No, you're right. No, I didn't know if it was allowed. It's pretty cool. Okay, that's for me. That's kind of neat. But it has everything. One of them, the Wagoneer 3, has a refrigerator now underneath the glove compartment in the car. Alan Samuels, Dodge, Chrysler, Jeep, Ram, Fiat, Loop 340 east of 84 in Waco.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
It was broad daylight. I stepped into a gas station for 5 minutes to grab a snack, and just like that, my car was broken into. They made out like a bandit. My laptop, my phone, everything. I called my agent to see what could be done, and he restored my faith in humanity. My claim was processed so quickly, and I was able to recover my losses.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
Payments for qualified buyers only at 2.9% with $5,000 down cash or trade. TTL Extra. See dealer for details. It's New Year, New Ride time at Richard Carr. New Year pre-owned deals like a 2017 Dodge Challenger for $272 a month, a 2019 Ford F-150 for $422 a month, or a 2014 Cadillac CTS sedan for $227 a month. Our vehicles go through a 172-point inspection and we pay top dollar for your trade. 100% approval is always our goal. Find your next car or truck at Richard Carr.
At Richard Carr, we give you more.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
I should have done a Baseball Hall of Fame one today so we could roll along, but Jack and I worked on this today. Top 5 college basketball.
So you're not
conference.
good about like changing direction here?
Well, we've graphics. I mean, there's a whole thing we got to do. I know. You know, we've got Hayden for 3 more days. You know, so I gotta get it to him in time. You know, so he can do it. But I'll do a Hall of Fame one tomorrow. But top 5 college basketball conferences, and surprising enough, of these top 5, the ACC, a long-time power conference, not on this list. The ACC has Duke and no one else this year.
By the way, follow up on that Chris Mack story. He and Louisville are talking right now on a separation agreement, so he is definitely out at Louisville.
Louisville should be a power program, right? They're firing their coach in the middle of the year. That should tell you how it's kind of going in the ACC right now. All right, so number 5. The Pac-12 in the KenPom rankings. Number 2, Arizona. Number 13, UCLA. Number 21, USC. And that's just in the top 21. Wow. And then you get in, they're top of the conference is a little bit better than most. Middle of the conference is good. Bottom of the conference is about like everybody else's when it comes to it, except for one league, the number 1 league, and I think people are going to know who that is. Number 4, and this is where you would think the ACC would be. Heck, it's the Big East. The Big East is back, baby. Number 8, Villanova in the KenPom. Number 18, Connecticut. Connecticut's back. Number 23, Xavier. And then 35, Seton Hall. 36, Marquette. All doing really well this year in the Big East, number 4 conference. And we'll just rifle through this since we're way over. Number 3, the SEC, which was an abysmal basketball league for a while, guys. It was Kentucky and everybody else.
Arkansas.
Florida. Yeah, but I mean, it was, but I mean, after Florida won their titles, it was a long gap. It was kind of Kentucky and then.
I don't know if Auburn keeps doing what they're doing. We're like a year away from them pumping it up as the greatest conference of all time. And ESPN coverage 24/7.
But Auburn, number 5 in the KenPom. Kentucky, number 6. LSU, number 11. Tennessee, number 12. Alabama, number 16. And then there's a stark drop-off once you get out of that. Then the conference kind of tails down. Although Texas A&M is on the upswing now under Buzz Williams, which you would expect to have happened over time.
That's why they hired him.
Yeah. Number 2, the Big Ten. Can't really mess around with the Big Ten when it comes to consistency. Purdue, number 7 in the Ken Palm. Illinois, number 15. Michigan State and Iowa back-to-back at 19 and 20. Michigan and Ohio State at 25 and 26. Indiana at 33. Maybe a renaissance from the Hoosiers.
Big Ten's always, it's been deep. They're good. They're really good. I mean, that says a lot. They were really good last year, too. They had a hell of a year last year.
Yeah. All right.
I love how the SEC's playing basketball.
And number 1, the Big 12. Baylor, number 3 in the Ken Palm. Kansas at number 9.
This is going to take an hour to list all 10
Texas Tech
teams.
at 14. Texas at 17. And then a little bit of a gap before you get to Iowa State at 31. And then you go down, but there are no gimme games. TCU's at 48. TCU's not been that high in the Ken Palm in years. So
why is Texas so high?
Well, they played and lost to Gonzaga.
But they don't have any big wins.
No, they have no Tier 1 wins from what I saw. I'm
not complaining. I'm curious what numbers are floating them at 17.
It must be just fact who they have played.
I guess so. Yeah.
But in fact, the other day when they lost to Kansas State, there was a comment from Goodman or someone that said, "Man, they need to get on it because their overall resume, despite that, is not strong, and they have plenty of games ahead of them. Of course, they can get some Tier 1 and top 5 or 10 wins in front of their schedule."
They're clearly not alone, as this graphic shows. I mean, they're the only team in the Big 12 without a win versus the AP, but then all those other conferences have multiple schools. So, I mean, that helps make some more sense. So, I'm just curious because I don't know what all goes into those rankings. But, I mean, I don't think there's any doubt the Big 12 is number 1 right now. And, again, I'll say it for the 100th time. Can't wait to see how this thing plays out, the way it's going. I mean, it's going to be a fight to the finish and a real fight at that.
Well, and we're going to see a fight tonight, perhaps at the Farrell Center with K-State Baylor, and I hope not literally, because it's just going to be a scratch and claw like it always is. Glad we could feature that Texas Tech and KU epic game from last night. Armstrong, Sims, Jack McKenzie, Paul Catalina, Craig Smoak. I'm David Smoak. Thanks to everybody who's been a part of the chat room, the text line as well. We have more to come tomorrow. And also our incredible sponsors, every day a part of Sikkim 365 Radio since day 1, April the 6th of 2020. We continue to grow. Please subscribe, like us. We appreciate it. Good night, Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
Ideal MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an Ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McLennan County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.